On a beautiful day, the entire town was adorned in the vibrant colors of the festival, along with incessant praises. It was truly splendid and wonderful. It seemed like a grand party was underway, with many ladies in attendance. The whispers and murmurs were ceaseless. "Do you see that flying billboard over there? Opening of the Blenheim Imperial Exhibition. Isn't the model promoting the exhibition the opera singer Antonelli? Have you seen the full-body poster? I heard it's life-sized." Not only that, there's also a book signing by the best-selling author from Hot Spring Village, and even Snowmine. All of these are the Grand Duchess's doing. And the person being spoken of was our protagonist, Annette, in a splendid blue evening gown, wearing a radiant smile befitting a welcoming hostess. Then suddenly, a hand gently rested on her shoulder, and a deep, warm voice, laced with tenderness, spoke up. "Annette, I've been looking for you everywhere. Do you know how worried I was when I couldn't find you?" This public display of intimacy made Annette stiffen, her face flushing in panic. "Loik, everyone's looking." Not only was he not embarrassed, but he shamelessly demanded, "So what? I haven't received my kiss from you today. How did things turn out this way? I clearly intended to live quietly for a year, then divorce and disappear. Yet everything I touched turned into a great success. Even the Grand Duke of the North was melted by me. Was I truly born to be a Grand Duchess?" A year ago at Dinthird Frace, a thunderous scolding echoed. "There's a limit to disgracing the family, isn't there? Marrying into a marquise family and you only sent a mere 500 deniers? The wedding even had a representative instead of you attending yourself. How exactly did you behave for the Grand Duke to be so brazen?" Annette, with a soul like a dried fish, protested in her mind. "How am I supposed to behave with a Grand Duke I've never met? And even if I knew the etiquette, sending a representative in place of the groom is truly ridiculous. Just recently I transmitted into a novel. The Saintess would become the Duchess in the future, a story about a saintess from the slums who overcame adversity and found love with a duke." I had transmigrated into Annette Frice, the illegitimate child born from the Marchioness's affair. In the original story, she was a villainous supporting character who constantly obstructed the love of the two main characters. She was also a saintess, a duchess, and a holy knight. Despite marrying the Grand Duke, she remained in the capital to cause trouble for the female lead. Ultimately, she was eliminated. But I am different from the original Annette. I will not refuse the marriage, nor will I stay in this capital. After venting his anger, Marquis Frice waved his hand to dismiss her, saying, "Get out. I will officially complain to the Grand Duke about this and delay the wedding until I receive proper wedding expenses." After contemplating her life, she suggested, "How about holding the wedding at the temple?" In her mind, she resolved, "I will use this marriage as an opportunity." Annette thought this and then persuaded him. If we hold it in the side chapel, the budget sent by the Grand Duke would be sufficient. He was still dissatisfied and complained, "A side chapel means no guests, just holding it alone?" But the Marquis's honor still had to be maintained. She remained firm, her words like those of a filial and considerate child. "Because this is an important wedding with vows, I don't want to trouble father with this matter." Those words struck a chord with the Marquis's financial considerations. He smiled broadly, looking like an elder. "This is the first time you've said something beneficial for the family. All right, then I will specifically ask the pontiff to officiate the wedding." The negotiation was successful, and Annette left feeling satisfied. The first goal was complete, marrying the Grand Duke for only 500 deniers. While she was in a good mood, a cold remark rang out. What a superfluous act. Seeing the person in front of her, she exclaimed, "Brother Ferdin." He was the eldest son, Ferdin Fries, the heir to the Marquise's house. He, cold on the outside but warm on the inside, remarked, "A wedding with no guests? Trying to curry favor with father? The more you do that, the more Grand Duke Blenheim will look down on you." Annette felt a pang of guilt and averted her gaze. "That I know. Our family had refused the request to support the war against magical beasts in the north, and the previous Grand Duke Blenheim, to protect the north, was forced to sign a blood pact with the dragon. It's natural that they hate us." Ferdin reminded her frankly, "Yes, father knows that, but still wants to use this marriage to curb the power of the current Grand Duke. You don't need to sacrifice yourself like this." Hearing the concern in his words, she secretly smiled to herself. Don't tell me, he still has to maintain a polite facade. "It's fine, I should help the Fraze family this way, shouldn't I?" I thought to myself. Worried about me. How cute. Before 2 seconds of cuteness had passed, he switched to grumpy mode. Then move aside. My heart also turned to silently curse. "You rude jerk." The small conversation ended, and time passed by. It had been 2 weeks since I transmigrated. I was adapting better than I thought, not even really wanting to return to my old world. Of course, at the Freeze mansion, I wasn't treated well. A group of maids whispered bad things in front of me, but when I turned to them, they flinched as if caught red-handed. They clearly avoided me. This reminded me of my previous life, but compared to the advertising industry I worked in before transmigrating, this level was still mild. A flood of memories came back. "I told you to make it a triangle," my past self said with a forced smile. "You clearly said a circle," my boss grumbled. "I don't know, but make it a triangle by tomorrow."
At night, I had to stay up late working overtime like a zombie. I thought to myself, yeah, triangle, stay time, crammed on the subway. How cute. Then I looked out the window at the bright sunshine. A life without overtime was truly sparkling. Being treated like a non-existent ghost was fine too.
I even feel comfortable, but it's too boring. I need stimulation, strong stimulation. Transmigrators are addicted to dopamine because they are deeply ingrained in modern civilization. The Marquis isn't allowed to go out freely. Even if it's just a nominal concubine, I'll be freer there than here. More importantly, the North sounds intriguing. It would be absurd to transmigrate here and not go. The territory is surrounded by snow-capped mountains, a magnificent and beautiful castle with towering spires, a medieval village with charming small houses. Not to mention Grand Duke Blenheim, a man cold in principle. Just imagining him is exciting. Witnessing it all firsthand is truly something to look forward to. Thinking of a bright future, Annette's heart couldn't stop racing with excitement. And in the place she longed to go, Blenheim, inside a room where candles provided both light and warmth, a hand picked up a letter. A cold voice stating, "Conditions accepted. The Marquis is truly determined." Perel nervously asked for an opinion. "It's my fault. I thought 500 deniers would make the Marquis cancel the engagement. What do we do now?" He threw the letter directly into the flames. What else is there to do? Tell her to dream on. "That woman will never set foot on Blenheim soil, Grand Duke Blenheim, Loic Blenheim." He nervously raised the issue. "But how do you intend to refuse, Your Grace? You can't just abandon her after the wedding ends." The speaker was Assistant Perel. He said nothing, only looked at him with an intense, unblinking gaze. As a servant, he suddenly felt uneasy. His smile froze on his lips, and sweat streamed down his face. Perel's face paled. "Are you truly going to abandon her?" The person next to him, as if the situation wasn't chaotic enough, slammed the table and praised. "That's a great idea. That Marquis would surely write enough reasons to marry off a maid. Bodyguards and all sorts of spies would follow. It must be cut off at the root." He was captain of the First Knights Demikesh. Loic opened his mouth. "So who will go cut off that sprout?" A group of board members discussed a plan to avoid the wife for their boss. Perel stood silently, protesting inwardly. Little did he know, a gaze had fallen upon him. He had already had to marry a woman on behalf of his master, and now he had to abandon her too? Who would want to do that? As soon as he finished thinking, he declared, "Let Perel go." Tears streamed down his face. "Why do all these things always fall on me?" Loic ignored his protest. "Instead, the escort duty will be assigned to Deputy Captain Hedrick. While passing through the capital, Deputy Captain Hedrick, please select a few knights from the First Knights to accompany you." He sighed, accepting the order. "Yes, understood." Across from me, Perel is still crying incessantly. I really can't do this. He ran a hand through his hair, a headache forming. Married the daughter of the one who destroyed his parents, find the right time, and then divorce her. On the wedding day, a somewhat rough hand styled her hair. Janet taunted as she worked. "Honestly, your ladyship's hair isn't platinum, it's just very silver white. If your ladyship's hair looks dull, at least your skin should brighten up a bit, but even with makeup, your ladyship still looks—" Annette looked at herself in the mirror, her eyes widening. "Huh, I look quite pretty today, don't I?" She raised an eyebrow and sneered. "The Marquis is very worried, afraid your ladyship will be treated poorly in the north. He even personally selected new servants to attend to your ladyship." She knew exactly what his intentions were and just gave a faint, mocking smile to herself. Worried about what? It's definitely to plant spies to monitor me in Blenheim, but there's no way things will go according to the Marquis's wishes. In the pristinely decorated church, the Archbishop spoke. "Today we gather here to witness the noble union of two people. Therefore, I invite you to recite your vows." Annette linked arms with the trembling person beside her. She thought to herself, "I heard there would be a proxy, but he looks tall and decent enough, so why is he shaking so much?" Perel, sweat pouring down him like a river, struggled to speak each word. "I, Perel Otis, on behalf of Loic Blenheim, vowed to love and respect for my entire life." Annette's heart scoffed. For my entire life? Just not getting kicked out immediately would be lucky enough. She thought this, but on the outside she had to maintain an elegant demeanor. "I, Annette, also vowed to dedicate my heart and soul to fulfill the duties of a spouse." The Archbishop declared, "Now exchange rings." Her hand rested on his still violently trembling hand. Her expressionless eyes watched Perel struggle to put the ring on her. She thought to herself, "I don't have any disease, do I? He's even trying to avoid touching me." And so their wedding was complete. Looking at it, one couldn't even tell who was marrying whom, but never mind. For Annette, getting married off was enough. Backstage, Janet lazily stretched. "Finally, it's over. Now I have to serve that bastard again." She walked while muttering, "Not Lady Radriel, but I have to follow a bastard. The Marquis is truly outrageous. Lady Annette!" As soon as she entered the room, Janet only saw her wedding dress, which she had just worn, lying alone on the floor. She was bewildered. "Huh? Where is she?" Outside, a pair of feet ran frantically like a dog chasing something in a field.
The scene was exactly like a groom canceling the wedding, abandoning the bride to run towards his crush who had returned to the country. Good, I must quickly escape before meeting the Grand Duchess. That person left a letter saying that they were in a hurry and couldn't go together. However, there was someone even more rushed than him. Annette had already changed her clothes and had plenty of time to catch him red-handed. Where are you rushing off to? Peril instinctively replied, I want to leave before meeting the Grand Duchess. Turning around and seeing that the person asking was her, he turned pale and shrieked, Grand Duchess. Annette smiled. It's fortunate that we met before missing each other, so let's go together. What could be more embarrassing than intending to abandon someone but being caught red-handed? Poor Peril panted. Go together? What do you mean? Annette said in a sweet voice full of meaning. What else could I mean? Of course you have to come with me to my husband's house. Inside, Peril's face was a mess. He had just finished the ceremony and was already planning to leave.
The Grand Duchess is truly clever. Luckily, I had prepared in advance. He tried to calm down and state the fabricated reason. Grand Duchess, it's truly rude, but I'm in a great hurry right now and cannot be delayed. The truth is, I don't have your carriage. Annette clapped her hands. Don't worry about that. I've already prepared a carriage for us to go. Perel asked incredulously, You intend to go by that? That sounds strange. She comforted him. It's fine, I've checked, and the wheels are working well. He tried to persuade her. No, what I mean is this kind of carriage will make the journey very difficult. But Annette was ready to handle any situation. Don't worry about that either. I've padded it very thickly. Perel broke out in a cold sweat, speechless and racking his brain. And the trip was prepared quite simply, so there were no escorts for the Grand Duchess. She turned and pointed towards another group of people. Don't you see? Aren't those the escorts? The people who were pointed out all widened their eyes and twisted their mouths. Huh? Escorts? Having been told this, he could only bury his face in his hands and scream internally. Perel leaned in and whispered, You all, quickly retract your disrespectful gazes in front of the Grand Duchess. Annette pretended not to notice their expressions. With the innocence of a fairy, she thought, the man rumored to be this empire's best knight truly looks very trustworthy. He was still struggling one last time, but the road had just thawed and was still very muddy. She immediately replied, Sir Perel's carriage will go first. What's the problem? He stammered, I mean... Nothing could stop Annette's will to leave home and follow her husband. Don't worry, just go ahead. I'll follow closely. Having said that, without letting him react further, she slammed the dividing door shut before Perel could think of a new excuse. He stood outside, dumbfounded like a lonely fawn, mouth agape. Sitting in the carriage, feeling the impending freedom, her soul finally blossomed. I'm finally free from the Fries family. Sir Perel seemed a bit faint-hearted, which was fortunate. Outside, a voice called out, Grand Duchess, I was sent by the young master. Hearing this, Annette recognized him. Ferdin, the servant replied, Yes, he instructed me to give this to your grace if you were to leave. She wondered to herself, how did he know I would leave? Annette asked what she was thinking. Didn't he say why? He replied, bewildered, It's probably just a wedding gift. The young master even came in person.
This surprised Annette a little. Did he come in person? The carriage procession was already lined up neatly, ready to depart. The servant Ferdin stood waving goodbye as Annette left. Just then, Janet appeared in a frantic rush, calling out everywhere, Mistress, where are you, Mistress Annette? Ferdin called out, Janet. Janet, panicking like a headless fly, quickly asked, Have you seen Mistress Annette anywhere? The servant Ferdin replied, If you mean the Grand Duchess, she just left. Janet remembered the Marquis's instructions that she absolutely had to bring her back after the wedding. She pressed left, went where? Firm's eyes widened. Where else? To Blenheim, of course. The clear blue sky appeared through the foliage, adorned with tiny golden lights like stardust. The carriage procession moved slowly through the sun-drenched forest, accompanied by knights surrounding the carriage carrying the glittering golden crown. Annette frowned, looking at the sparkling golden box. Ferdin, do you mean this is a wedding gift? Ferdin had once accidentally kicked her, almost making her fall, so he should stay away. Just thinking of that name sent shivers down Annette's spine. But a wedding gift? No way.
She gasped, her eyes wide, stunned by the brilliant light emanating from the mysterious gift. Inside the splendid golden box was a set of sparkling blue gemstone jewelry, so beautiful it exuded absolute luxury. This jewelry looked extremely expensive. Is this really just a gift? There was also a small piece of paper. I knew it. Let's see what he wants to say. On the small note, the message was just a brief sentence. If you need help, contact Arson's aunt. Its excessive brevity made Annette question everything. Is that all? So he really prepared this as a wedding gift. A gift, an emergency contact, and he's even attending the wedding. This means he knew about her escape plan, but still prepared this for her. At first, she was worried about deviating from the rules, but it turned out she still had an ally. Suddenly, she felt she could live well in Blenheim. Under the brilliant golden sunset covering the forest, Perel quietly walked towards the stopped carriage. Meanwhile, she was still sound asleep, hugging the gift box. He gently woke her. Grand Duchess. Annette started, her eyes half closed. Oh, are we there? She secretly wiped her mouth.
What's going on? Peril, explain clearly. We'll stop for a moment to pick up a few more people for the party. Annette, both angry and sarcastic, said, Too busy to wait for me? And here I thought you were frozen stiff.
Then she asked, "And though it's a bit sudden, would you like to switch carriages with me?" Annette laughed, waving her hand to reassure Peril. "I'm fine, just do your work." Peril could only stand frozen as the sound of a slamming door echoed from Annette. He didn't know what expression to wear in this situation. Annette got into the carriage, stretching and yawning wearily. It would probably be a long journey, so she might as well get some more sleep. Once awake, it was truly hard to fall back asleep. It would be best to take a walk to clear her head. Annette's footsteps lightly touched the grass, making her skirt sway gently in the soft golden sunlight. She felt incredibly alive. How wonderful, she thought, realizing this was the first time she had completely left the Hoturk Fries' residence. Before she could get comfortable for long, Annette heard someone's voice echo. "Are you crazy, sir? Why did you bring her along?" Annette quickly hid behind the wall, wondering, "Are they talking about me?" Peril awkwardly asked the group of knights, "So should we abandon the bride halfway?" They bluntly retorted, "You must refuse immediately."
Her following them was also part of the plan. Perel forced a smile and waved his hand. "Gentlemen, calm down. I don't think she's as bad as the rumors say." The knights jumped up. "Haven't you heard the rumors about the fake saintess? She must have deceived Sir Perel. They say she's a notorious villainess in the capital. Truly formidable." Annette raged in vain. "That's slander." They cornered her with disgusted faces. "Just leave her behind. At the field camp, someone will take her away immediately." Leon weakly protested. "You're all going too far. How can you say such things in front of a lady?" Annette nodded rapidly, thinking to herself, "That's right, you hateful bunch. No matter what happens, I'll follow through to the end." Annette stopped dead, flustered when she met Hedrick's stern gaze fixed on her. He tilted his head, puzzled by her reaction, causing Annette to hastily explain. No, I mean..." Hedrick immediately turned and walked away, leaving her frantically calling out in despair. "Damn it, I wasn't eavesdropping. Listen to me first." He walked towards the group of knights, making the atmosphere significantly more serious. That was Sir Hedrick, the vice commander.
"You've arrived? You're here?" Hedrick probed slightly. "Yes, how are things?" Perel, having been psychologically manipulated, had no choice but to follow the knight's words. "Well then, we will escort the Grand Duchess all the way to Blenheim." His gaze was distant. "I see." Annette pretended not to know what was happening, enjoying her stroll. "Oh, what are you all doing gathered here?" He was stunned, not expecting it. "You? Since when?" She thought to herself, "Good, I'm acting very naturally."
But it's getting dark, the journey will be tough. We'll try to go as fast as possible. She came up with a brilliant idea. How about we stop at Roji Inn before reaching Marhen? I heard it's very good there. Perel tried to explain, attempting to divert. But that inn is right at the capital's entrance. It's always crowded. By now, I'm sure all the rooms are taken. Annette's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Who knows? Since we're here, we might as well try. He still argued. But Grand Duchess, even if there are rooms, our group is too large. He raised his hand, stopping Perel from speaking further. "I will proceed towards Roji Inn." Perel flinched. "Go now?" Hedrick quickly resolved. "If there aren't enough rooms, we only need a room for the Grand Duchess. The rest can stay outside." Prepare to depart, to Roji Inn. His straightforwardness exceeded her expectations. She thought to herself, "Oh, he's actually listening to me?" The knights were not very pleased. They grumbled. "We're exhausted to death, and now we have to sleep outside too? Everyone knows how good Roji is." Annette smiled triumphantly. "Well, since I gave the order, I'll take responsibility then." He approached and whispered worriedly, "Grand Duchess."
"Are you sure?" She feigned innocence. "What do you mean?" A bright, seemingly unplanned smile. Perel was once again powerless. He threw his hands up in despair, crying, "Please, let there still be a room." Annette gave a faint smile. Exactly. He was terribly gloomy. What could he do? Seeing this, she could only smile proudly. This assistant is truly gentle-natured, even worried about being disliked. But don't worry, Perel. Just prepare yourself for a surprise. The peaceful wooden house appeared under the deep purple night sky. Soft light cast on the carriage parked in front of the door. Leon checked thoroughly before going out to report to Hedrick. "Sir, it's true there are no rooms left. I tried asking, but it seems there's a large group of guests." He propped his hands, sighing in resignation, having known this would happen. Indeed, Perel fell into an inescapable state of despair. "I knew it." Hedrick glared, utterly devoid of sympathy. "I thought there was some plan, but it turns out it's just the princess's impulsive whim. But it's also good. She's too delicate to sleep outside. Who knows, she might give up." He gave the order. "Prepare to go to Marhen." This made Annette come down in bewilderment. What is everyone doing?
"Why aren't you inside yet?" He frantically ran over and snatched the newspaper. "Grand Duchess, I apologize, but there are no rooms available at the moment." She immersed herself in the script, exclaiming, "No way, check again." Peril shed tears of sorrow. "We've already checked several times." The irritable knight yelled, "Princess, please stop joking." He tried to cover his mouth. "Calm down." He politely bowed. "Grand Duchess, I apologize, but it seems you'll have to sleep outside tonight." Surprisingly, Annette brought out a reservation slip. "Here." Peril took it, speechless. "What is this?" His eyes widened in shock, bewildered by the paper. She smiled with extreme arrogance. "What are you waiting for? Quickly give it to the innkeeper. I've already booked rooms for everyone for dinner." Everyone stared in astonishment, not understanding what had just happened before them. Annette smiled subtly and mischievously, her lips curving up because everything was perfect in her plan. When entertaining business clients, it's basic to make a reservation in advance. Annette was overjoyed. So let's go eat. When we're full and warm, we'll naturally feel more affectionate towards each other. A few days ago, at the Information Guild, 3 money bags and several gold coins were placed on the table. He explained clearly.
This is the money obtained from selling the jewelry. Annette picked up a bag, not expecting the amount to be so small. This amount is much less than I thought. It seems it was sold too cheaply, wasn't it? He gave an unfriendly smile. We also need to sell at a good price to make a profit. This is the best price we could negotiate. She gave a forced smile, pondering. That's true. The Marquis wouldn't be foolish enough to give expensive jewelry to a child who isn't his own flesh and blood. He recalled Annette placing a bag of gold on the table. Convert all of this into cash for me. That made him curious. But why didn't the young lady take it to a jeweler and instead came to our Information Guild? She hid her thoughts. If the Marquis found out I was selling jewelry to create a contingency fund, I'd be dead for sure. Annette had to switch to another reason. Oh, just to make a request while I'm here. He was surprised. A request? What is it? She explained without hesitation. By now, the Blenhelm side must have registered for the teleportation gate to the capital. I want to know when they arrive and when they return. Annette pondered deeply. If it's according to principle, they will try every way to abandon me and leave. I cannot allow myself to be easily left behind. He gently refused. We cannot casually disclose sensitive information like Blenhelm's. She placed the bag of bribe money down, her eyes sparkling cutely. Then at least let me see the teleportation gate registration list, can't you? Seeing the money, all traces of shame vanished from his face. He stammered, Well, as it happens, I do have a list here. Annette was overjoyed. Show me quickly. She flipped through the documents in confusion. What is this? Isn't this itinerary for leaving right after the wedding? He wiped the teapot while offering an idea. It would be convenient to stop by from the north. It would be great if you could stay at Roji Inn. I wonder what urgent matter makes the schedule so rushed. Annette looked bewildered, like a novice. Roji Inn? He smirked. Doesn't the young lady know? It's an inn opened by a former royal chef. The food is absolutely superb. Rooms there are always fully booked, so you have to arrive before sunset. She immediately seized the opportunity. This is it. Annette asked instantly. Can I book a room in advance? He gave a forced laugh. That's not possible, ma'am. We have guests right now. Why would we hold a room for someone who might not even come? She held up the bag of money to entice him. Please.
What if the room was paid for in advance? The wooden house glowed warmly under the deep blue night sky, kitchen smoke gently drifting from the chimney, making the scene peaceful and relaxing. The chef and Annette invited everyone to enjoy the delicious food. To the group's wide-eyed surprise, plenty of food had been prepared. Just say if you need anything. A plate of bolden grilled fish was exquisitely arranged in the center of the banquet table, emitting an enticing aroma that made everyone want to eat it immediately. And the plump, glistening roasted chicken, garnished with oranges and herbs, looked as luxurious as a main course at a royal banquet. The young knight gaped. Deputy Leader, I suppose we're still not allowed to eat, are we? The atmosphere in the room suddenly fell silent. Despite being very hungry, no one dared to look around and eat first. Hedrick had no choice but to speak up. Since the Grand Duchess has shown concern, please eat to your heart's content. With just that one sentence, everyone's expressions immediately changed, and the whole group eagerly took the food. Thank you, Grand Duchess. We humbly accept. She looked at them with an affectionate gaze. You haven't had a proper meal or rest since we set off, so it's natural to be hungry. Payroll was stunned, unable to believe his eyes. Grand Duchess, but how did you book the room?
Annette raised her cup. She heard that everyone who came to the capital wanted to stay at the Roji Inn long term. She sat frozen, but why? She presented smoothly, without a single flaw. She had thought everyone would leave today. This trip wasn't exactly a joyful occasion, so they surely wouldn't stay long, because everyone had gone to such trouble to come all the way to the capital for her. So she just wanted to reciprocate a little, but deep down, Annette was extremely hesitant. She absolutely couldn't say that she had investigated beforehand. She happily put down her wine cup. Well, everyone, please eat to your heart's content. I'm going up to my room now. She hoped everyone would rest and regain their strength. Annette went up to her room, feeling excited. The goodwill towards her also rapidly increased. The knights, while chewing, were grateful for her efforts. They never expected the Grand Duchess Consort to think of them to this extent. Indeed, thanks to the Grand Duchess Consort, we've been able to come to this place. It seems she's even better than rumored, doesn't she? A brilliant morning enveloped the wooden house, sunlight piercing through the green foliage, creating a peaceful and vibrant scene. She gently walked with her pretty pink slippers. The knights, being too joyful, forgot their way back, so now they lay drunk on the floor. Annette could not have foreseen this situation.
A knight groaned, leaving her helpless. They had drunk too much. Annette forced a smile. Fortunately, everyone seemed to have enjoyed themselves. Only Leon was still sober. Grand Duchess, greetings, Grand Duchess. She cheerfully greeted him. Good morning, Sir Leon. Did you rest well? His eyes lit up. You know my name?
Yes, thanks to your concern, I rested very well. Annette came over to ask, It smells wonderful. What is it? Leon placed the pot on the table. It's tomato soup for the nights. In Blenheim, after a big feast, spicy tomato soup is often cooked to eat the next day. She realized something new. Ah, so it's a hangover cure. But this strong, spicy smell, it's like, I really want to eat kimchi stew. He politely offered Annette the soup. Shall I prepare a portion for the Grand Duchess and bring it up? She wanted to bridge the gap between herself and the night order. No, don't do that. Bring this. I'll eat with the knights. Leon was startled. This? Eat together? This is commoners' food. The bowl of bright red, spicy tomato soup with potatoes, vegetables, and spices glistening on top looked both hot and appealing.
She was worried she wouldn't be able to eat it. Compared to what people usually eat, this dish was much spicier, but she didn't give up because of that. On the contrary, she loved spicy food. She hadn't even lifted her spoon when she had to stop. Everyone at the table simultaneously turned their eyes towards her, looking at her like a strange creature. It felt just like the first time a foreigner ate kimchi. She slowly brought the spoon of soup to her mouth to savor it. Her senses truly exploded with the very first spoonful. Since arriving here, she hadn't tasted this nostalgic, spicy flavor. She continued to eat, unable to stop. She devoured the entire plate, the intense spiciness making a Korean heart tremble. Everyone watched her eat with wide eyes and open mouths. Before long, she had finished the entire plate of soup. It was so delicious, she felt her stomach lighten. The entire company of knights admired her appetite. Even the Grand Duchess understood the feeling of a lightened stomach. Everyone from Blenheim liked this soup, but outsiders often found it too spicy to eat. Everyone bestowed upon her the title of honorary Blenheim citizen. She smiled confidently, her sparkling eyes gleaming with delight. She eagerly asked for more. Then, I'll have another bowl. The majestic castle stood tall amidst the star-filled night sky. The yellow lights spilling from the windows made the scene both grand and ethereal. The Grand Duchess will return to Blenheim with us. Perhaps you should prepare a room for the Grand Duchess, Peril. Loic's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Is this Peril fellow crazy? It seems he's completely forgotten his superior's orders. Whitney, the butler of Blenheim Manor, adjusted his glasses to see more clearly. Peril forced a smile and explained a little. The Grand Duchess came alone. Without a maid or guard, it was very difficult to send her back, yet she was incredibly skillful and thoughtful. Even during the proxy wedding, she showed no displeasure and was very amiable with the knights. Completely different from the rumors. Anyway, it seemed difficult to send her back, so it wasn't like she was intentionally taken anywhere. He placed a hand on his chest and said, "We must prepare to receive the Grand Duchess." He had no choice but to swallow his anger, telling himself, I truly cannot understand the Marquis's daughter. If she were a normal lady, just having to marry without a husband would be shameful enough. Could Peril have been bullied? Isn't the Marquis's daughter the notorious villainess of the capital? Whitney poured a bucket of cold water on Loic. What about you, sir? Aren't you called the Grand Duke, the monster who drinks the blood of magical beasts?
He remained calm as usual. Yes, I know better than anyone that those words are not trustworthy. Loic's eyes narrowed, a sharp gaze mixed with contemplation, but it was true that she was not an ordinary lady. She thought to herself, that's actually good. In the north, if you're weak, you can't survive. Anyway, being a little tough is better. He suddenly thought, wait, what nonsense am I thinking? He sat down and continued, but we also cannot let the Marquis's daughter travel by carriage for a whole week to return, only to be sent back immediately. We cannot give the Marquis a reason to complain. Just prepare one room. She will be sent back in a few days. You heard the order. Understood, Your Highness. Loic gazed thoughtfully out the window. She thought, yes, this is as far as it goes. The nominal favor for a wife will end here. Leaving Cointreau Rogy, the group passed through the city gate, then got into carriages and headed straight north. The sun shone down, and a layer of snow still lay undisturbed on the ground and clung to the tree branches. Before that, Perel had instructed Johas, it's not proper for a Grand Duchess to wash her face in the river like the knights. He reluctantly carried a bucket to fetch water. Having to boil water like this, it's truly miserable.
Johas stopped when he saw someone diligently doing something by the riverbank. Huh? Hey, what's that strange hat? He flinched when he heard Annette's voice. Sir Johas. Johas turned pale, hastily bowing. Greetings, Grand Duchess. She asked in a clear voice, Are you also here to wash your face? He stiffened, awkwardly replying, I came here to boil water for the Grand Duchess to use. Annette looked blankly at the bucket of water in Johas's hand, asking, Water? She said, Oh, don't worry too much. Cool river water is fine too. So please feel free to wash up. I'll wash myself clean. As for the cooking and entertainment, just leave it to me. He froze in astonishment when he saw her cooking skills.
Grand Duchess. The Grand Duchess is so skilled. Johas was bewildered when he saw Annette sleeping peacefully in a caterpillar cocoon. Even in the forest, not an inn, I sleep soundly. The next morning, she wearily packed her luggage. We're out to travel a long distance again. Leon and Johas proactively carried Annette's suitcase. Grand Duchess, let us do it. Please hand it over to us. We are teammates now, after all. Finally, the knights also began to set up camp.
Night falls. The full moon rises high, illuminating the world. She sat by the campfire with the knights. At first, she felt uncomfortable being with them, but now no one considered her a noble lady anymore. Johas proactively shared meat with Annette. Grand Duchess, please try this. The meat is absolutely delicious. She happily accepted. Thank you. Afterwards, Annette quietly ate the food he gave her. She gazed into the distance, pondering. The Grand Territory is approaching. She should try to inquire about the Grand Duke. She had a feeling they would tell her everything, except for the safe combination. Annette asked, by the way, Sir Johas, what kind of food does the Grand Duke like? Johas paused and mumbled, the Grand Duke? Well, he eats everything, as if he's gnawing on a tree branch. She continued to ask, what about his hobbies? He interjected, beheading magical beasts. Annette continued to ask, so what's his personality like? He hesitated before revealing, if I had to say, he's a bit cold. Sometimes he doesn't open his mouth to say a single word all day. Leon added, people also say that if Blinhone's ice wall were to become a person, that would be the Grand Duke. She stammered a forced laugh.
So, Perel coughed. He immediately spoke up for Loic. Grand Duchess, although the Grand Duke is not a gentle person, he is still a good man. Isn't that right, Sir Johas? Sir Leon? Johas coughed hesitantly. Of course, our master, no, our leader. We must speak well of our leader. Ah, he is the youngest sword saint, reaching the pinnacle of swordsmanship at the age of 15. Johas enthusiastically added, that's right, he is the only one who can slay magical beasts with just his sword aura. Leon continued to praise. Furthermore, he deeply loves the people of his territory, so enthusiastic that he even spills beer from his cup. The Grand Duke is the North. Anyone who dares to touch the North, he will not let it slide. Both she and Perel were utterly dumbfounded upon hearing their boastful words. Isn't that right? I see. The Grand Duke is not particular about food, possesses extraordinary martial arts, and loves the North. Then he will surely despise me, the daughter of a marquis. But who am I? Someone who once relentlessly pursued even notoriously harsh advertisers to win contracts. By any means necessary, I will approach the Grand Duke. The next morning, a carriage took Annette to the family's castle.
This place was covered in the white of snow. Annette peeked her head out to admire the scenery, her eyes wide with wonder. This Grand Duchy was truly vast, and the castle was even more terrifyingly huge. He placed a hand on his chest and explained, Grand Duchess, the Grand Duke has been very busy lately, so he couldn't come out to greet you. She turned back and smiled. I see. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Annette thought to herself, it's a blessing if I'm not immediately chased away. She spoke up. He was once so busy that he couldn't even attend his own wedding. Perel's eyes widened in bewilderment. Fortunately, the Grand Duchess understood. The large doors of the residence opened. Whitney respectfully welcomed them. I am Whitney, the steward of Blenheim Castle. I am greatly honored to meet the Grand Duchess. The Grand Duchess must be tired from her long journey. Please come into the resting room first. Annette offered a radiant smile. I look forward to your kind consideration. She secretly assessed. Truly a northerner. Despite his age, he still exudes an imposing aura. He led her into her room, a spacious and luxurious chamber. Annette observed in wonder. Is this my room? Whitney stood behind her and instructed. I will call the maidservants immediately to attend to the Grand Duchess.
She turned her head and suggested, if the Grand Duke returns, please inform him that I wish to have an audience. He immediately agreed. Of course, I will inform him as soon as he returns. After Whitney left the room, Annette stretched and exclaimed, the room is truly warm and comfortable. She excitedly smiled brightly. That's right, there's nothing to worry about. I've already thought carefully about how to persuade the Grand Duke all the way here. Annette innocently danced by herself. She was also quite pretty. Who knew the Grand Duke might fall for her at first sight? She startled and stopped when she saw herself in the mirror. Annette shrieked in panic. Oh my, what is this appearance? And those four men were too embarrassed to say anything. In Loic's study, Perel asked him in bewilderment, why are you treating our Grand Duchess like this? Loic replied with a cold tone, my deputy, have you finally gone mad? He flinched and stepped back. But she has come all this way. How can we immediately send the bride back? She has endured so many hardships on the way here. He then sneered. How can a pampered young lady complain about hardship?
Perel turned pale, bewildered. Is the young lady spoiled from childhood? If you had seen what the Grand Duchess rode to get here, you wouldn't say that. Before that, he had secretly observed her from his study. Loic stared at the carriage carrying Annette. So she was the only one who rode this horse all the way here? Her hair had caught his attention. Loic's gaze didn't leave it for a moment. Her hair, exactly like a snow-capped mountain. After that, he coldly turned and went back inside. Loic ordered, Perel, don't defy my orders anymore. When she has rested enough for a few days, have her sent back to the capital. He kept thinking that to arrive at Blenheim riding such a meager thing, she must be truly tough. Returning to the warm and safe capital sooner would still be better for the young lady. Annette dejectedly leaned back in her chair. When will the Grand Duke return? Whitney smiled and replied, he hasn't returned yet. The next day, she still only heard that same reply. He hasn't returned today either. Annette ate while thinking. Is he very busy? The following day, it was still the same. He still hasn't returned. She dejectedly thought to herself, he probably won't return today either. On the third day, Annette dejectedly waited in her chair.
This is definitely intentionally avoiding me, isn't it? If the Grand Duke is like this, then I'll just have to act. The room door closed. Annette leaned against the door and thought to herself, that's right, now that I think about it, it is strange. Whitney carefully poured her tea. Annette looked up and started a conversation. I'd like to take a walk around the city and see what it's like. He immediately explained. Grand Duchess, the structure of the Grand Domain is classified as military confidential. If you wish to tour it, you must have the Grand Duke's permission. She excitedly slammed the table and stood up. Where is the Grand Duke's room? I'll go ask for permission myself. Whitney smiled and said decisively, unfortunately, the location of the Grand Duke's room is also information I cannot casually disclose. Annette closed her eyes and sank into thought. Is Auntie being held captive at the Marquis's mansion like this? In the original story, she never even got to speak with the Grand Duke, and in the end, the engagement was called off. She then decided, there's no other way. If they said it can't be disclosed, then I'll just have to find it myself. After all, the Grand Duke's room must surely have the most magnificent door. Annette stood alone in the hallway, feeling bewildered. She then bewilderedly asked herself, if I just knock on every single room, I'm bound to find it.
Right, Annette said, then quickly ran down the hallway. She searched room by room. This room was locked. That room was also locked. Most of them were locked. Oh, rarely was there an open room. The maidservants, seeing Annette, stammered a greeting. Greetings, Grand Duchess. She sighed, thinking to herself that only the household staff greeted her with reluctance. Annette replied, you're working hard. They stammered in unison. She silently resolved not to give up. Other maidservants looked at Annette in confusion. Grand Duchess, why are you? She excitedly exclaimed, you're working hard. Annette accidentally walked into the kitchen. The head chef was instructing new recruits. Baking requires strength. They replied in unison, yes, sir. She stammered awkwardly, excuse me. Annette truly ransacked the entire mansion looking for Loic, knocking on every door. She politely knocked, and a voice replied, please come in. Annette excitedly opened the door. It was the first time she had received a response, but the people inside all had tired, haggard faces. Is that Grand Duchess? She widened her eyes in embarrassment. These tired faces, they look so familiar. Perel greeted her with a weary voice.
Greetings, Grand Duchess. Annette awkwardly replied, don't mind me, I hope I'm not bothering you. But what room is this? He looked at the pile of documents on the table and replied, this is the office for administrative apprentices. She was a little interested in this room. With the words apprentice and internship, it was certainly a demanding position, meant for those who had gone through the apprenticeship case. Annette raised her voice to encourage them. You are the hardest working people in the city. Thank you for your dedication to the city. Well, see you later. After saying goodbye, she turned and left, slamming the door shut. The long-haired youth wondered aloud, why would she come all the way here? Even the Grand Duke has never visited. The mushroom-haired young man immediately explained, isn't she scouting? All the important things are well hidden. The gel-haired young man stared blankly at the door. But this is the first time I've met her. She's truly beautiful. Loic exclaimed in surprise. What? Administrative apprentices met the Grand Duchess? Perel, walking beside him, revealed. The Grand Duchess has been going all over the city all day, from cavalrymen to laundry maids. Everyone says they've met the Grand Duchess. He turned and asked, is she scouting? Perel immediately denied, no.
It seems more like he's looking for the Grand Duke. Loic awkwardly looked away. He's quite persistent, he recalled Whitney's words. Your Highness, perhaps you should just meet him once. There's no way to refuse anymore. Loic seriously considered the matter. Even the seasoned Whitney looked flustered. Perel saw Annette and was about to call out, Grand Duchess, but then he turned to Loic and asked, Your Highness, what's wrong? He then pressed Loic against the wall, creating a pink, bubbly atmosphere between them. Perel exclaimed in surprise, Grand Duke! But Loic's expression was incredibly dark and fierce. Silence. He awkwardly looked behind him. Loic glanced around nervously. Surely no one saw him, right? He spoke persuasively. Have you met the Grand Duchess yet? Just meet her once. Loic firmly refused. Don't talk about it so easily. He looked at his palms with a pensive gaze. I avoid her. Actually, because of her. Loic recalled an event from the past. At a party when he was young, in a dark room, he stared in dismay at his two trembling hands. Before Loic lay a motionless body. He clenched his hands.
If I had left without meeting her, I would have just been an unlucky man in her life. But if we met, then her life would truly be unlucky. Meeting me would only be to realize what a terrible husband she had married. The next morning, white snow still clung to the dry branches. Her hand, holding a teacup, trembled incessantly.
Annette is so cold she's sneezing. Norton carefully draped a warm cloak over her. 3 hours have passed, Your Highness. Perhaps you should go inside and rest? Annette stubbornly refused. No, you are watching me, so I cannot go find the Grand Duke myself. Therefore, the only way is to wait here. He stammered in confusion. That, she looked up and reproached him. If Sir Norton had given me a hint, I wouldn't be suffering like this. Norton still adhered to the rules, unable to reveal the Grand Duke's room location. Besides, he wouldn't be able to meet anyone today anyway. He broke into a sweat, flustered, as he listened to Annette's complaints. Why? Is he not coming out because I'm here? Her face darkened as she tried to suppress her anger. That hateful man. Why is he so determined not to meet? We only need to live harmoniously for about a year. In the original story, Marquis Fries eventually betrayed them.
But I failed and was destroyed. So until then, I must survive as the Grand Duchess, living quietly as if I don't exist, divorce a year later, and then go anywhere. But to do that, I have to meet the Grand Duke to negotiate first. Norton anxiously looked at Annette's pensive face. What is Your Highness thinking about? He spoke up, changing the subject. Would you like some tomato soup? She made a longing face. Tomato soup? Norton nodded and introduced. Yes, there's a restaurant that makes Blenheim-style tomato soup. The Grand Duchess will surely like it. Annette enthusiastically responded. Going out? Then we can conveniently stroll around the village, shop, and eat all at once. He smiled back. Yes, that would be much more comfortable. She happily suggested. Then why don't we invite the Grand Duke from the room at the end of the West Wing, on this castle's floor, to come along? He pouted in response. Should we really do that? Norton turned to stone when he realized he had fallen into Annette's trap. She darkened her face, looking dangerous. Aha, so the Grand Duke's room really is there. You ask how I knew the room. It's all thanks to my deductive reasoning. I deliberately sat drinking tea in the garden on such a cold day for a reason.
Annette speculated that the castle's owner would certainly not be in a room without a garden view. The Grand Duke's room must be one of the rooms with the best garden views. Her own room was on the far east side of the second floor, so they would surely place the Grand Duke's room as far away as possible. Therefore, that room must be at the end of the West Wing. It's hard to believe the Grand Duke would tolerate staying in the coldest room in the castle, so perhaps it's somewhere else. Huh? Isn't that the Grand Duke? Their eyes suddenly met. She flinched in alarm as Loic quickly drew the curtains. Annette was certain. There was no mistaking it. It was indeed him, in his room. After their eyes met, Loic quickly let go of the curtain and hid inside, anxiously placing his hand on his chest. Loic blushed in embarrassment. Our eyes met. She probably didn't recognize me, right? Doesn't Norton worry about the young lady getting sick? What if she catches a cold sitting and drinking tea in such a cold place? He fell silent as he realized his own strange thoughts. Loic frantically ran his hands through his hair in confusion. Wait, what was I just thinking? That's right, if the young lady gets a cold, it will only make things more troublesome. Numerous ailments, and the city's manpower is further strained. She truly is a troublesome woman. Norton led Annette on a stroll through the streets and introduced, "This is the largest and most bustling street in the northern region. Because its ground is paved with gold, people call it Gold Lane." Her eyes lit up in awe. "It's so dazzling. Is it really gold?" He continued to introduce, "That's gold leaf left over from the gold mining in the Blenheim mountain range." Annette walked, admiring the gold-paved road. Paving the road with gold? It seemed the Marquis's words about the wealth of this territory were true. Yet when he married her, he only sent a mere 500 danners. She wanted to rush in and scold him fiercely, but doing so would make Norton uncomfortable. A moment ago, she wanted to go to Loic. Let go, I just want to say one thing." Norton tried his best to hold Annette back. "Please, Grand Duchess, please." Returning to reality, she spoke up and asked, "So which is the most famous shop here?" He immediately introduced, "There aren't many famous shops here like in the capital. People from the northern region don't pay much attention to trends, and furthermore, they don't like to queue." Annette nodded, understanding. "Is that so?" She looked up, admiring the architecture here. "The shops here, to put it nicely, are practical. To put it harshly, they're rustic. Without signs, you wouldn't even know what they sell. Oh well, we're just window shopping anyway. Let's take our time strolling around. Surely we'll find something if we actually go shopping." Annette and Norton strolled through the streets from morning until late evening. Finding nothing, she frowned gloomily. Every shop was peculiar. Annette exclaimed as she looked at herself in the mirror, "This is beautiful, but what about this rim style?" The shop owner yawned repeatedly, as if unwilling to welcome them, and coldly said, "If you're not buying, please leave." The two continued to another shop. She was delighted as she tried on a bracelet. It was truly beautiful. "Maybe I should buy one. Let's see." But upon seeing the price, Annette's attitude changed. She trembled in fear. This price would require selling my entire house. This time, Annette was also mercilessly chased away by the shop owner. "If you're not buying, please leave." She walked gloomily down the street, never having found shopping so tiresome. Decent items were rare, and the sellers were all unpleasant. He asked worriedly, "Grand Duchess, are you all right?" Annette sighed in frustration.
It made sense. In such a remote northeastern region, it was difficult to find satisfactory shopping.
Even if they were friendly, it wouldn't attract more customers, so they didn't need to be welcoming. She quickly regained her composure. I'm a little tired. I'd like to eat something. Norton immediately suggested, then let's go to that tomato soup restaurant I mentioned. There's an inn nearby owned by Sir Leon's parents. Annette's eyes widened in surprise. Sir Leon's parents? She suddenly remembered Johas's words. Your Highness likes this tomato soup so much. If you go to Blenheim, please visit Sir Leon's parents' inn. The food there is excellent. Leon proudly introduced. That's my parents' specialty. Annette eagerly accepted. I've been wanting to try it there too. Delicious food is the best. Afterwards, the two of them went to Leon's parents' inn. But when she stepped inside, it was completely empty. Why is there no one here? They said it was famous. Marie eagerly came out to greet the distinguished guests. Oh my goodness, what an honor, Your Highness. Hello, sir. I am Marie, the owner, and this is my husband, Jacques. I don't know what to say about you specially visiting our establishment. Annette gave a radiant smile. I heard that Madame's cooking is excellent, and Sir Leon praised it highly.
She suddenly remembered the reactions of those around her to her. Anyway, being welcomed like this felt heartwarming. Up until now, anyone who recognized her in Blenheim would always show discomfort. She excitedly slapped Jacques on the shoulder and said, Oh my goodness, the Grand Duchess knows our son's name. He burst out laughing and replied, That's right. Grand Duchess, please tell us what you would like to eat. Annette immediately ordered, Then I'll have the really spicy and rich tomato soup. Marie clapped her hands and asked, Oh, Blenheim-style tomato soup? The Grand Duchess is looking for that? Leave it to me. It'll taste even better with white wine. She repeated blankly. Wine? Afterwards, she brought a lot of food to the table. Although there were already many dishes on the table, Marie still showed enthusiasm, saying, Because we wanted to treat you generously, we made a few more dishes, so please, enjoy your meal. She spoke up suggesting, Don't be like that, let's eat together. She awkwardly refused. Oh no, we couldn't possibly. Annette insisted on inviting. Eating alone is so sad. Come on, sit down quickly. Mr. Norton also widened his eyes in confusion, asking, Me too? All three of them widened their eyes in confusion.
All three of them sat down to eat with her. She delightedly thought, This is exactly the taste, so delicious. This is the best sour soup I've ever eaten. Jacques smiled in welcome. It's wonderful that you find it to your liking. Food and wine are always available. Please feel free to help yourself. Annette raised her glass. Oh, thank you. Norton worriedly reminded her, Grand Duchess, if I may say something, please don't drink too much. This is already your third glass. She burst out laughing and boasted, Don't worry, I've never met anyone who can outdrink me. Annette proudly thought to herself, I was once recognized as the goddess of wine. And that was my last memory at the inn. On a quiet moonlit night at the Blenheim family's mansion, her golden hair was spread across the floor. On one side was a broken glass, on the other was Loic pinning Annette to the ground. Both were flustered as their eyes met. She shamefully thought to herself, how did it come to this? Earlier, during dinner, Annette had cheerfully popped the cork off a wine bottle with her hand. She raised her hand and filled 4 glasses of wine in an instant, making Marie and Jacques exclaim in admiration and applaud.
Norton, meanwhile, looked bewildered, his eyes seemingly unable to believe what he saw. After that, all 4 sat down at the table. Jacques said to Annette with concern, Madame, perhaps you should stop drinking now. Marie, meanwhile, picked up a bottle of wine and smiled brightly. That's our Madame. Annette then raised the glass of wine in her hand and cheerfully declared, it's fine, this is nothing. With that, she enjoyed her wine, thinking to herself, I used to be called a sales director for alcohol. It's no exaggeration to say that at my old company, where drinking was a huge part of doing business, I frequently entertained clients and even drank them under the table. Even back then, some people criticized me for those networking drinking sessions. Annette's cheeks grew even redder, and her voice was slightly hoarse from the wine. I didn't expect to be disliked for that here too. Upon hearing this, Marie looked at her with sympathetic eyes. Madame. Annette, with sparkling eyes, said to her, I'm not talking about what you said to me. I am truly grateful for your warm welcome, even though I arrived unexpectedly. Marie, moved, replied, Your visit alone is an honor for our family. Jacques smiled gently in agreement.
That's right. Who would dare hate Her Highness? She is now officially a northerner. Annette's face showed a stunned expression. A northerner? Jacques replied with a smile. Of course, you are the Duchess of Blenheim, beloved by all. If I may be so bold as to say, I believe the people of Blenheim will sooner or later recognize your true heart. Marie also chimed in. Northerners may seem rude, but once you get to know them, they are the warmest people. Annette couldn't help but ask curiously, even the Duke? The two immediately stiffened, their smiles rigid on their faces. Annette quickly said, I'm sorry. Then, with eyes full of anticipation, she looked at them. Does the Duke also have a warm heart, even though he refuses to see me? Thinking of Loic's cold and gloomy expression, Jacques and Marie hesitated, unsure how to answer. Annette seemed a little tipsy. She lowered her head and mumbled to herself, I want to get along with the Duke, but he avoids me every day. What should I do?
Soon it was late at night, and Annette was escorted back to her room to rest. The maid carefully tucked her in, softly saying, "Please rest, madame."
Suddenly, she sprang up, startling the maid. "That's right, I can't just be left like this. Besides, I already know where the Duke is." Thinking this, she happily turned to the maid and said, "Please, bring me some tea." The maid felt a little confused, but still nodded slightly and replied, "Yes." After the tea was brought, Annette aggressively pushed the tea cart away, muttering to herself, "I'll use the excuse of bringing tea and barge right in. It's time for the last resort. This time I have to resolve it decisively." Looking at Annette's retreating back, the maid was both worried and bewildered, wondering, should I stop her? A moment later, Annette pushed open Loic's room door. She picked up the tea tray and gently stepped inside. "Duke." Her expression became tense. She told herself, even though she had gathered some courage from the alcohol, wasn't barging in like this a bit too much? She was sober now. That is, the bathroom. Just as Annette's gaze landed there, Loic stepped out, wrapped in a bathrobe. Seeing him in that state, she immediately blushed. Loic also seemed startled to see her appear in his room. He clutched his bathrobe tightly with both hands, shouting in alarm.
"Why are you—" Annette turned her face away. She used her hand to block her vision, awkwardly saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you weren't dressed yet. I just wanted to see you, Duke." Annette's feet slowly retreated, but unfortunately she tripped over her own slipper, lost her balance, and fell backward. Seeing this, worry flashed in Loic's eyes. Annette squeezed her eyes shut, accepting whatever was about to happen. The tea set on the tray was flung into the air. Meanwhile, Loic was rushing towards her. She thought to herself, only to end up dying with a broken head like this? I came to find a husband who wouldn't even meet me. If I had known, I would have eaten another bowl of tomato soup. The next second, a large hand reached out in front of her. Loic had arrived in time, pulling her tightly into his embrace. Annette was utterly astonished in that moment. The sound of the teapot hitting the ground rang out, followed by a heavy thud. Loic continued to hold Annette tightly, protecting her from the impact. At this moment, her eyes were wide open, staring into space. Her cheeks flushed. What should I do? Loic slowly pushed himself up with his hands, a clear look of worry on his face. The distance between the two was very close.
Both stared at each other, stunned. It took Loic a few seconds to react, his expression changing. He sat up from Annette as if he had been electrocuted. Loic asked Annette, "Are you all right?" Annette slowly sat up as well, asking with concern, "Yes, I'm fine, but what about you, Duke?" Loic looked at her, his face slightly pale, secretly thinking, "All right? How could I be?" Suddenly, Annette cried out, "Duke, you're bleeding!" Loic's arm had been cut by a broken piece of the teapot, and fresh red blood streamed down his arm. Annette, extremely worried, wanted to move closer to examine his wound, asking, "Are you all right? It must hurt a lot." Loic reached out his other hand to stop her. "Miss, please don't move." Annette immediately stopped, her face showing confusion. Just then, Whitney rushed in from outside, his face filled with panic. He asked, "Duke, what happened?" Seeing Whitney arrive, Loic immediately ordered, "Escort Miss Annette back to her room at once." Annette stepped towards Whitney, saying loudly, "Wait, the Duke is injured. He needs treatment right away." Whitney nodded slightly in response. Annette continued, "I will take care of him myself."
"Please, miss, go downstairs first." Hearing Whitney say that, Annette had no reason to linger any longer. Before leaving, she turned her head to look towards Loic. He had turned around, standing with his back to her, one hand supporting his forehead, lost in thought. Returning to her room, Annette sat on her bed, blaming herself. "It's all my fault. If only I hadn't burst into the Duke's room." But clearly, Annette recalled the moment Loic had embraced her. At that moment, she was incredibly surprised, almost disbelieving. Annette placed both hands on her chest, feeling her heartbeat. In that moment, she felt a warm surge of energy flow through her body. Why did the Duke suddenly push her away like that? It wasn't the look of someone who hated touching her, but rather the look of someone who was afraid. She had completely forgotten about the Duke's curse. When the war with the magic beasts broke out, an exhausted dragon made a blood pact with the previous Duke. It needed a safe place to store its magic power. The previous Duke received the dragon's magic core and won the war. Upon returning with the knights, the people cheered, celebrating their victory. He had protected the north, but because he couldn't withstand the dragon's power.
Finally, he passed away, and that destiny was fully passed on to the current Duke. When the dragon's manner ran wild within his body, there were only two ways to control it. One was to constantly expend physical strength, which was why the Duke often went out to hunt magical beasts. The other way was to have physical contact with a woman who could share the dragon's mana. In the original story, the only woman capable of this was Saintess Constance. Any other woman, even if they just lightly touched the Duke, would suffer intense pain, and in the worst-case scenario, could even die. That was why he always avoided me, fearing I would get hurt. Wait a minute, then why am I perfectly fine? In a flash, it was the morning of the next day. Gentle sunlight from outside shone into the room. Loic, dazzled by the light, turned his head away. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide, his face showing astonishment. Loic immediately sprang up. Surprise appeared in his eyes. Did I really sleep through the entire night without waking up even once? Why? Normally, I toss and turn until dawn, barely managing to get a little sleep. Could it be?
Clearly, at that time, I felt my mana flowing into his body.
Since I was cursed, this is the first time I've truly felt alive. I once heard a story about a woman who could share magic. If that story is true, then the young lady is my benefactor, the one who can soothe this pain. Soon after, Loic arranged to meet Annette. The teacup on the table emitted a warm, hazy steam. His tone was extremely serious. "Young lady, I'll be direct. Return to the capital." Hearing him say that, she was utterly astonished and immediately asked, "What? Why?" Loic pursed his lips, looking at her, and thought to himself, "Because I won't allow anyone else to hold my destiny. A dragon is enough for someone completely bound. Nothing is more terrifying than craving a touch for a lifetime." Annette saw his expression and said worriedly, "But I am your wife now. Blenheim is my home. Where else can I go?" Loic, as if not hearing her words, reminded her in a deep voice, "The carriage will depart tomorrow, so make sure to bring all your luggage. I will arrange an escort for you." Annette frowned, thinking, so being gentle won't work. The next second, she made a blunt declaration that stunned Loic.
"I also want to divorce the Duke, but not now. Just let me stay for 1 year, then I will leave without a trace." Loic firmly replied, "Absolutely not." Seeing this, Annette began to get angry, thinking to herself, how stubborn. She looked straight at Loic and asked, "Are you waiting for another bride? Perhaps the princess of the kingdom of Rondoris?" Seeing Loic's reaction, she secretly chuckled to herself. "I guessed right, didn't I?" Outwardly, she spoke seriously. "But what do you intend to do?" "I have no intention of leaving. If you take me back to the capital, I will say that I spent our wedding night with you." Hearing this, Loic's face flushed red. He looked at Annette in astonishment and almost yelled, Have you no shame?" Annette urgently replied, "I'm just desperate. Please, let me stay for 1 year." Seeing this, Loic's face showed a helpless expression. "It's not the time that matters," he said. "I will be honest with you. I inherited a curse from my father. Any woman who touches me will feel intense pain, which could even lead to death. You were also in danger yesterday. For your own good, it's best that you leave."
Annette looked at Loic in surprise after he finished speaking, feeling a sense of disbelief in her heart. "You're telling me something this important?" Loic continued in a low voice, "Only a few people know this secret, so I trust you will keep it confidential." At this moment, a hint of sadness appeared on Annette's face. She said, "Telling this to me, the daughter of Marquis Fries. In the original story, only Saintess Constance could soothe the Duke's pain. But yesterday, even after being by your side for a long time, I didn't feel anything at all. On the contrary, if I touch you one more time, I'll be certain." Thinking of that, she said with certainty to Loic, "But Duke, I wasn't hurt at all." Hearing that, he seemed unable to believe it, asking in return, "What?" Annette placed her hand on her chest, smiling as she confirmed once more, "Yesterday, I didn't feel any pain. It was just pleasant." Loic's cheeks and earlobes flushed red again. He closed his eyes, avoiding Annette's gaze. "Pleasant? That—" Seeing his flushed face, Annette crossed her arms and secretly chuckled to herself. "Ashamed to hear these words? You're even more naive than I thought." Then she frankly told Loic, "I know I'm not the person you desire."
"Your Grace," he immediately denied. "No, that's not what I meant." Annette continued to wear a sad expression. "You forced me to walk down the aisle with another man, and even when I came here, you never once appeared." Her words made him even more flustered. Then Annette added a final remark, "And even if your curse doesn't affect me, you still want to send me away." Loic's face darkened and sweat poured down him. He quickly denied, "No, that's not it." Annette acted very dramatically, as if collapsing, sitting on the ground. "If I return like this, everyone will say that you abandoned me." She sobbed, "I have nowhere else to go." Seeing her so weak in front of him, Loic was not without emotion. "Madam," Annette's sobs echoed, leaving Loic at a loss for what to do. He clasped his hands together, finally compromising with Annette. "All right, as long as you don't forget my warning, you can do as you please." He added, "You should stop crying." Hearing him say that, Annette stopped sobbing, her sparkling eyes fixed on him. She took the handkerchief from Loic and replied with a radiant smile, "I will. But if at any point I have to suffer even a little
"Or become a burden to you, I will leave immediately." He saw her stand up, brush the dust off her skirt, and smile brightly as if nothing had happened. Loic thought, puzzled. She just finished crying. To be sure, Annette also made a suggestion. "Then let's make a contract." Loic watched her scribble, then asked, wondering, "Is it really necessary?" She replied confidently, "Of course, a contract is very important." In her head, she secretly thought, he doesn't know how terrifying contracts can be. Loic Blenheim and Annette Fries agreed to divorce after 1 year. Looking at the content of the contract she had just finished writing, Annette smiled brightly like a blooming flower and exclaimed, "Perfect, then I will rely on you, Your Grace." Loic's face involuntarily flushed slightly. He carefully took Annette's hands, performed the proper ritual.
I'm completely drawn in now. Then he gently kissed the back of her hand. Annette was very satisfied, her smile growing even brighter. Now it's certain, I no longer feel pain when touching your grace. The next morning, Annette walked around the mansion, happily thinking, talking to him truly makes me feel relieved. Even though she had only been here for a year, as she walked past, she encountered several maids. They all respectfully bowed their heads to greet her. The madame also waved cheerfully in return, saying good morning. If the Duchess lived here as a guest, even the subordinates and servants in the castle would look down on me. If I just let time pass by uselessly, I would go crazy. My biggest goal was to live as if I had never existed here, but if she did nothing, the rumors would only spread further. That's why I had to work hard and take on my share of the tasks myself. While deep in thought, Annette didn't realize when she had arrived in front of Loic's room. She raised her hand and gently knocked, calling out, "Duke?" Seeing that it was still silent inside, she wondered, why isn't he answering? Immediately after, the door was forcefully pushed open, startling Annette. Loic opened the door, and seeing her standing there, he couldn't help but be surprised. "Madame?" Annette smiled and greeted him. "Good morning, Duke." But he seemed quite flustered as he asked her, "What brings you here?" Annette brushed past him, walking straight into the room naturally. "I thought we could have breakfast together. Please excuse my abruptness. I've come too early, haven't I?"
At that moment, Loic involuntarily thought, that's not necessary, but out loud he had to agree, all right. Seeing his collar open, Annette eagerly offered to help. "Are you about to tie your tie? Let me do it for you." Hearing this, Loic immediately refused. "That's not necessary." Annette frowned at his cold attitude, her displeasure evident. "Not necessary?" Despite what he said, she still wanted to step forward and help. "I'm really good at tying them." The two were like sparring. Annette had just thrust a sword towards Loic, and he immediately raised his shield to block it. "I can tie it myself." Annette didn't give up and continued her attack, "But I'm really good at tying knots." Loic didn't yield at all, continuing to use his shield to protect himself. "I really can tie it myself." Seeing that he still wouldn't agree, she resorted to a coy tactic, her eyes sparkling with anticipation like a chick. "But even so, I still want to try." Immediately, Loic surrendered, his face utterly flustered. He had no choice but to accept Annette's wish. "All right?" She smiled brightly and asserted confidently, "Yes, I'll make it look very nice. Don't be too nervous. I'll be quick." With that, Annette took hold of the tie, her movements extremely nimble. She seemed quite proficient at tying ties. Loic didn't dare to look directly at her. However, he couldn't suppress his curiosity and glanced over. Annette smiled faintly, attentively tying his tie, her face bright and gentle. Unconsciously, Loic was captivated by Annette. He watched her without blinking. His ears and the back of his neck flushed crimson, clearly embarrassed. Suddenly, Annette spoke up, making him freeze. "By the way, Your Grace, how much longer do you intend to call me Madame?" Loic began to awkwardly ask again, "If not Madame, then what should I call you?" Annette looked up at him and seriously replied, "I am your wife now. Please call me Duchess." Loic seemed to hesitate. "Isn't that a bit—" Annette didn't blame him. Instead, she cheerfully suggested, "If it feels awkward, you can call me Annette, or my dear is fine too." Hearing that, Loic immediately said, "I will call you Duchess." Annette beamed and replied, "All right. Shall we go eat then?" Loic's entire body seemed to turn to stone on the spot. He was still unaccustomed to Annette's way of treating him.
In the dining room, everything had been meticulously prepared. When Annette appeared, the male servants respectfully said, "The madam has arrived. Today's breakfast is—" She walked over, her arm linked with Loic's. Seeing the two of them like this, the servant was utterly astonished and stammered, Is the Duke coming down for breakfast?" Their gazes fixed on Loic's arm. All of them gaped, their faces clearly showing disbelief at seeing the two arm in arm. A moment later, Annette and Loic were seated at the dining table, enjoying breakfast. She happily spoke up, "This is another wonderful breakfast. Your chef is truly excellent." Loic didn't show much emotion, responding indifferently, "Good, I am glad it suits your taste." After the main course, the servant brought dessert for the two of them. It was strawberry cream cake. Annette didn't wait another second, immediately bringing a piece of cake to her mouth, her face filled with happiness. Seeing her enjoy the food so much, Loic curiously asked, "Do you like sweets?" She smiled brightly and replied, "I like strawberries more than cake. The strawberries in Glenholm are wonderful." Loic continued, "They're probably imported from Roldoris." Hearing him say that, Annette suddenly became interested. "Is that so? I'd like to visit Roldoris Semsem too." "I heard that place is very beautiful. Perhaps I'll get to go when your wedding is held next year." Her words made Loic choke. He turned pale, trembling as he called out to her, "Duchess." Annette covered her mouth and chuckled. "I was just kidding." She thought to herself, "The Duke is surprisingly easy to tease." After breakfast, she strolled down the long corridor, intending to return to her room. Even following the Duke, I'm still free. In the original timeline, I would probably be swamped with meetings and councils by now, but here, I just stroll or drink tea. Just then, a clearing of a throat sounded right behind Annette. She immediately turned her head to look and saw Whitney standing there. "Whitney," he smiled faintly as he informed her, "this afternoon, the Duke plans to take a walk in the garden." Annette couldn't help but be surprised upon hearing this. She looked at Whitney and thought to herself, "Whitney must be one of the few people who knows about the Duke's curse. He must be helping me because he knows the curse doesn't affect me. Found it."
That afternoon, Annette changed into a different dress and confidently went to find Loic. She saw him standing, lost in thought, looking up at the sky. She walked over and softly spoke. "Sir? What a coincidence. Just in time. I was also planning to take a walk." When Loic saw her appear, he showed hesitation, as if he wanted to get away from her immediately. Is it really a coincidence? Honestly. A moment later, the two of them strolled together in the garden. Annette asked curiously, "Does the Duke avoid being served by maids because of the curse as well?" He replied somewhat coldly, "I never liked being touched by others right from the start." Annette's expression immediately fell. "I understand." In her heart, she felt great sympathy for Loic. Indeed, if touching someone could kill them, then physical contact must be a terrible pressure, and not being able to tell anyone, that must have been a heavy burden on him. Suddenly, Annette noticed the tie around Loic's neck. "Duke, your tie is a bit crooked." He immediately bent down to adjust his tie. "I changed into my training clothes this morning." She happily wanted to help him again. "Let me adjust it for you. Did you tie it exactly the way I did before? You really have a keen eye." Loic hesitated, replying, "I didn't tie it again. I just felt it was a bit wrong to undo the knot you had carefully tied for me." Hearing him say that, a look of astonishment flashed in Annette's eyes. "What? If you never untied it?"
Then her eyes widened as if in disbelief. Annette voiced the thought in her head. "Wait, you untied it and then tied it back exactly the way I did? Do you like my knot that much?" Loic charmed his face away to avoid further embarrassment. "No, I just thought it would be improper to remove something you had tied so carefully." Annette was overjoyed upon hearing this, her smile deepening. She tilted her head, beaming, and said to Loic, "You can untie it whenever you want. I'll gladly tie it back for you any time." His ears turned red again. Loic said nothing, but it was clear from his expression that he was embarrassed. Seeing his reaction, Annette happily thought to herself, "How cute. I need to get closer to him quickly so I can see this side of him more often. The plan to visit 3 times a day starts now." That evening, Annette came to Loic's door again and knocked. "Duke, are you asleep yet?" From inside came a loud thud, as if something had just fallen to the floor. Hearing the sound, she wondered, puzzled. Did something break again? Wouldn't it be easier if he had a servant?
Loic, his clothes rather disheveled, looked as if he had just sprung out of bed. He asked, "Duchess, is something urgent?" Annette smiled brightly at him. In her mind, she thought, "No, I just want to get a little closer to you so you can't push me away anymore, to imprint my shadow into your memory." She told herself, "Of course I can't say that, so I need an excuse." Having thought that, she immediately said, "Nothing urgent at all. I just wanted to wish you good night. May I come in for a moment?" Loic seemed reluctant to receive her. He made an excuse to refuse, or saying, "I'm not properly dressed to receive you, so..." Seeing that he was about to refuse, Annette quickly used her foot to block the door. She said, "It's not like you're wearing nothing. What's the problem? If that's the case, I'm not exactly dressed properly either, am I?" Loic turned his face away, avoiding looking directly at Annette. He replied, "That's right. Your attire isn't suitable either." His mind began to race. She doesn't even realize that's the bigger problem. Annette didn't give up, continuously attacking his soft-heartedness. The hallway is too cold. "I just need to come inside for a bit. I'll warm up and then leave right away. Really, I promise." Loic's expression at this moment was clearly unwilling. She was truly stubborn. He sighed and led her into his room. "All right, but just for a moment." A moment later, Loic was neatly lying on the bed, while Annette sat beside him, holding his hand. She smiled, teasing him. "Sir, I'm not going to eat you. Relax a little." Loic's face was full of question marks, not understanding how everything had turned out like this. Annette gently stroked his hand, making him unable to relax his body at all. In his head, he wondered, "I swear she was only supposed to come in for a moment, but how did it end up like this?" An hour ago, Annette looked at the scene before her and assessed. "So this is the bedroom. Last time I was too tired to look around properly." She secretly remarked on everything in the room. For a Grand Duke's room, it was surprisingly simple. Annette suddenly wondered, "Are you sleeping, Your Highness? Did I wake you?" Loic immediately denied it. "No, that's not it." At this moment, she gently patted her hand on the bed. "That won't do. Let me lull you back to sleep. Lie down." Upon hearing Annette's suggestion, he let out a surprised gasp. Loic asked in disbelief, "What did you just say?" She replied calmly, "I said I would lull you to sleep. Since I accidentally woke you up, it's my responsibility. Actually, I'm quite good at it." After Annette finished speaking, she secretly thought of the past. Whenever she reported her work, her bosses would immediately nod off to sleep. He irritably ran a hand through his hair. "Do you think I'm a child?" She stared blankly at Loic. "No, not at all. But..." Annette didn't dare voice her inner thought. "The pain is preventing you from sleeping soundly, isn't it?" In the book The Secret of the Holy Bride, there's a scene where the Saintess soothes the Grand Duke's pain with magic. With just a light touch, the intense pain in Loic's body immediately vanished. She synthesized the information she had gathered, and it was roughly like this. If that were true, then the more she touched him, the more the pain would subside. In fact, Annette suddenly remembered when the two of them had been intimate. Based on that, she could deduce. Ever since she started touching him more, his expression also looked more relieved.
You kindly allowed me to stay in the castle, so I want to make you comfortable in return. Annette proactively offered, I won't leave this room until you lie down on the bed. I don't care if the servants misunderstand. Your Highness, he was suddenly startled. Misunderstand what? Seeing her calmly continue, if you don't like it, then just do as I say, and I'll leave immediately. Loic began to feel annoyed. Grand Duchess, why are you being so stubborn? His reaction made Annette worried. Does that mean you don't like it? Loic immediately retorted. Of course I do. Then he quickly lay down on the bed next to her. At this moment, Loic carefully reminded her, you should know that I am a knight trained with a sword. Don't do anything foolish. Annette didn't expect him to say that. Do you think I'll attack you? What do you take me for? Loic gave her a sidelong glance and said, then think back on everything you've said and done so far. Hearing that, Annette pouted and secretly calculated. Your hand, but just wait and see. He was startled by her actions. Your hand. Annette sat there calmly saying, it'll warm up in a bit.
You'll easily fall asleep. Loic, panicking quickly and interjected, that's enough, there's no need. Then he suddenly froze, speechless. She continued to diligently warm Loic's hands. Annette thought to herself, the tension in his hands immediately vanished and he looked much calmer. His hands were truly large, perhaps mine were too small. But then again, how could such a large man look like he was about to shatter at any moment? A moment later, she smiled with great satisfaction because he had fallen asleep. Annette gazed at the deeply sleeping Loic. Thank goodness he is asleep. When he slept, his face looked exactly like a puppy's. It felt so strange. In the novel, she hadn't found it particularly special. But there, his curse was merely condensed into a few lines, something the novel glossed over too briefly, yet was an unending torment in reality. She couldn't dismiss him as merely a character to be conquered. Just then, a sound rang out, catching her attention. What? You said to switch shifts again? Because no one can look after Simona's child? The black-haired maid replied, I heard her husband sprained his ankle or something.
Hearing it, she exclaimed, how did it turn out like this? Seeing this, Annette remarked, those maids are still awake at this hour. Meanwhile, the black-haired maid was still discussing. It seems the couple had just had some private time when the children suddenly rushed into the room. The startled husband sprang up, tripped over the bed frame and tumbled down. The brown-haired maid couldn't help but laugh. They might even have a third child this time. My sister once sent her child to our mother. Not long after, another one came along. Standing upstairs, she hesitated, thinking, should I go down? Just then, Rita approached. What are you doing here? Don't you know you're not supposed to be here at this hour? The two maids jumped in fright when Rita reprimanded them. Rita continued sternly. The housekeeper clearly stated that no one should linger near the central staircase after sunset. She retorted, a little displeased. You're overreacting. I'm just standing here. Then what are you doing here? Rita calmly replied. There's no hot water in Her Highness's room. Only then did Annette realize. So she's my maid. Her voice sounds familiar. Just then, the brown-haired maid brought out an item. I'm on my way with the hot water.
Here, take this. Rita took the item, displeased. What is this? The water is ice cold. She calmly replied. It was hot just now, but it's cold outside, so it cooled down quickly. She coldly ordered. Then go heat it up again. The brown-haired maid retorted defiantly. What? Do you think I'm your maid? I've been cleaning windows all day. I'm dead tired. How annoying, Rita muttered to herself. I have to go down to the kitchen again. There's no other way, she thought, considering the current situation. Going down to the kitchen at this hour is really troublesome, but thanks to that girl, I'll get to drink hot water. Next time we meet, I must definitely ask for her name. At the same time, she suddenly stopped. Rita fell silent, her eyes, full of murderous intent, fixed on what was behind her. The next day, Annette cheerfully said with a smile, Good morning, sir. Loic politely greeted back, Good morning. She was very pleased with his current appearance. I'm glad to see you slept well. Your face looks truly radiant. Then Annette stepped forward and said, Today, I'll try a different method. Just then, Loic spoke up. Regarding yesterday, I apologize. Annette was stunned to hear that.
Yesterday? Why? He cleared his throat softly and explained, I fell asleep. Knowing the reason, she became even more puzzled. Why are you apologizing? I came to help you sleep. Anyway, Annette was extremely excited internally. Now that you've experienced the comfort of my touch, you'll find it hard to sleep alone again. Scene shifts to Loic's office. Currently, he was extremely curious. Grand Duchess, what brings you to my office? She calmly answered Loic's question. I came here because I was bored. He looked at Annette and said sternly, I have work to finish this morning. Seeing her turn to look around, Annette said, I know, I didn't come to bother you. I'll just stay here and read. Don't mind me, you just keep working. Next, Loic silently watched Annette, who was engrossed in her book. As she read, she pondered, I even brought books to learn more ways to tie neckties. Are they out of money, which is why the illustrations are like that? These illustrations are so unsightly. Instead of this shoddy book, the Grand Duke himself looks far more artistic. He seemed to sense something strange, and his gaze shifted towards Annette. Loic wondered, What do you need?
Annette quickly replied, No, it's just you're so handsome that I can't stop looking. Annette's compliment made his ears turn red. Loic awkwardly and quickly shifted his gaze. You often say such things so easily to other people, don't you? Hearing that, Annette immediately retorted, Others? My standards are very high. I wouldn't say that to anyone if I didn't truly mean it. He took in those words and then suddenly fell silent. A moment later, Leon entered the room to report. Commander, this is the training schedule you requested. Annette was surprised by his appearance. Sir Leon? Seeing her, Leon politely greeted. Greetings, Lady Grand Duchess. Louis's face darkened when he saw Annette's reaction. Annette, you know Sir Leon's name? He placed the documents on the table. Ah, this is the training schedule I mentioned. He took it and replied, I'll look it over. Please wait here for a moment. Leon smiled and replied, yes. Annette, meanwhile, suddenly felt curious. Sir Leon, I visited Mrs. Marie's Inn a few days ago. Did she tell you? He raised his hand and scratched his head. My mother always brags about it. She was so happy to have dined with the Grand Duchess. She was overjoyed when her cooking was praised. Annette cheerfully spoke up. Really? Leon diligently recounted. She cooked feasts all week, turning the inn into a continuous banquet. She still innocently chatted. Ah, I see. I'm craving it too. May I visit again? He immediately agreed without noticing his reaction. Of course, it's always an honor for me. Just then, Loic interrupted. Sir Leon. Leon startled and turned. Yes, Commander. Loic immediately ordered. Come back in an hour. He asked, bewildered. What? But you just said you'd watch. Before Leon could finish, Loic cut him off. Go. Intimidated by his gaze, he replied. Understood. Leon began to feel worried. Did I do something wrong? He quickly exited the room. Loic placed the documents on the table and asked curiously, It seems you've become close with the knights. Annette heard this and innocently replied, Are you referring to Leon? He accompanied me when I arrived at the Grand Duke's mansion. So how old is Leon? He couldn't help but ask. Puzzled, why are you asking?
She calmly explained the reason. He looked too young, but when he took off his powder, he looked even younger, truly cute. His face was extremely displeased. Did she just call him cute? Annette suddenly felt confused, wondering if calling a knight cute was rude. Loic had started to get angry. She remembered she had said she wouldn't utter such words to anyone. Annette let out a bewildered gasp. He was trying to suppress his annoyance. That guy was clearly an adult. He was actually no longer at an age to be called cute. At this moment, Annette stared at Loic, pondering, did I perhaps hurt his pride by calling his knight cute? A moment later, she wrote seriously. A sound from ahead caught Annette's attention. He suddenly stood up and said, I must go. My schedule is packed until evening, so I'll be back late. Now, she secretly analyzed in her heart. He left so suddenly with a work-related reason. I truly can't understand him. Is it due to his inherently gruff nature, or is he just shy when he's around me? Annette remembered what Loic had just said. You say such things so easily to anyone, don't you, Grand Duchess?
She couldn't help but marvel. After all, his attire today was perfectly suited. It was the epitome of solemnity and elegance. However, the sleeves would look better if they were a little wider. What's the men's fashion like in the capital? The only man from the capital I know is Ferdin. He sent me an expensive gift that I still haven't thanked him for. I should write to Ferdin when I get the chance. Even if he's not happy to hear from me, I should at least thank him. Ferdin, are you well? I've received the jewelry safely. I'm truly grateful, but why didn't you give it to me directly at the wedding? I have so many questions. Why did you just send a jewelry box through a servant? This doesn't feel right at all. Well then, I'll rewrite it. To young Master Ferdin, thank you for pretending not to see me when I ran away. But seriously, how did you know I was running away? I don't even know what to write anymore. Forcing myself to put pen to paper feels so awkward. Just then, a sound from outside the door startled Annette. Rita pushed in a food cart and reported, Madam, here are some refreshments. Annette stared at her in surprise. That girl was the maid Annette saw yesterday. Annette looked at the snacks laid out and couldn't help but exclaim, Oh my, how beautiful. Rita stared in bewildered surprise at Annette's actions, then respectfully replied, Thank you, madam. Meanwhile, Annette ate and pondered, But are fruits this common in the north? I didn't think they could grow easily in such a cold climate. How surprising. In the blink of an eye, Annette had finished all the snacks. She felt completely at ease. Finally, her mind was clear again. All right, I'll start with a proper greeting and then arrange what I want to say next. Suddenly, Rita offered, Madam, should I clear away all these papers scattered across the floor? Annette heard this and replied, Oh, yes, please. After that, Rita proceeded to gather the papers Annette had discarded, then cast a very cautious glance at her. Time passed and evening arrived quickly. Annette walked to Loic's door and knocked. Duke, I'm here. She was quite surprised when he opened the door and couldn't help but let out a soft gasp.
Duke. Just then, Loic spoke up. There's something I didn't get a chance to say this afternoon. From now on, I ask that you no longer visit at night, because nothing good comes from us going to each other's rooms so late. His request left her bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Annette felt confused and asked, Why is that a problem? We're husband and wife. Loic turned away and replied, One of us will be divorced within the next year. I know you pay attention to me out of kindness. Please don't disrupt my life so much. Seeing his attitude, she cautiously asked, Am I making you so uncomfortable? Loic replied very calmly, I am someone who has grown accustomed to loneliness, and I am still someone who must live that way. Annette suddenly brightened up. All right then, I won't come at night anymore, right? He immediately reminded her. That doesn't mean other things are acceptable. Then she stared blankly at the closing bedroom door. I understand. Good night. Annette looked disappointedly at the item in her hand. I even brought scented oil to rub on your hands today. Loic closed the door, then stood leaning against it, lost in thought. He closed his eyes, feeling a bit annoyed. After that, Loic walked over to his desk.
I shouldn't confide in her about the curse. He reached out and picked up the paper on the table. Loic suddenly remembered Peril's words. As you can see, although she is presented as the Marquis's beloved daughter, rumors that she is an illegitimate child between the Marchioness and another man are said to be quite well-founded. Are you still so cold to her, even after this? Our Duchess isn't even the Marquis's daughter. He immediately grasped the key word. Our Duchess. Anyway, the truth about the rumors surrounding the Duchess didn't matter. The Marquis would use her, one way or another. If people knew that women could die just by touching me, chaos would spread throughout Blenheim. Loic remembered the past again. Loic's father once screamed, "No, this cannot happen to my son. If I had known the curse would be passed on, I would never have made a contract with the dragon." Oh, to think that Loic would have to inherit this pain, a pain worse than death. He had inadvertently witnessed him screaming, "No." Returning to reality, Loic mused, "My father had no choice, but I am different. This painful, disgusting bloodline will end with me. It's still cold. Despite this cold, spring will surely arrive." He wondered if Annette liked spring in the north. He recalled the moment Annette happily said, "Because strawberries are even better than cake. I really like fruit." Loic's lips unconsciously curved upwards. That's right. Even when just eating a simple piece of cake, her eyes would light up when she talked about delicious strawberries. She always wore a smile as bright as the sun, and her voice was gentle. She made even the coldest winter feel like spring. He recalled another scene where she pleaded, "Please let me stay for just 1 year. After that, I will leave without a trace." Loic etched it into his memory. 1 year. The Duchess was someone who would leave sooner or later. She only needed a temporary place to stay for now. I cannot get used to the warmth she brings, because if I do, I will never be able to go back to how I was before. Having Annette by my side only soothes the pain. It doesn't mean the curse has been lifted. He silently told himself, I shouldn't have anyone by my side. I won't let myself be swayed by Annette anymore.
Then Loic's room door opened and someone entered. Whitney reported, "Your Grace, I have placed the order according to your instructions. Starting this morning, we will import double the amount of strawberries." Upon hearing this, Loic said with satisfaction, "Excellent, and bring an additional small stool to place next to the sofa in my study." Whitney was surprised by Loic's instruction. Then Whitney smiled cheerfully and said, "If it's also for the Duchess, a small one would be most suitable, wouldn't it?" Loic suddenly turned away awkwardly. "Well," Whitney quickly continued, "she can also rest her arms comfortably. She'll surely enjoy it very much while reading a book and eating strawberries." Now Loic thought with a hint of embarrassment, "This isn't because I'm swayed by Annette." He recalled the last time he was reviewing documents and inadvertently found himself staring at Annette. He saw her seriously reading a book, and Annette uncomfortably raised her hand to massage her shoulder. Loic had noticed her discomfort. Now he thought to himself, I saw her discomfort. I can't pretend I didn't notice. All right, this much should be fine. The sky was clear and vast. Clouds drifted lazily in the golden sunlight. At this moment, Annette was in the garden, reading a book and enjoying tea. She let out a slightly worried sigh, wondering if the Grand Duke had slept well. She didn't even dare to go check, fearing that if she disturbed him too early, he would tell her not to come again. Putting that aside, the strawberries here were truly delicious. She wasn't sure if she was imagining things, but lately there seemed to be more fruit than before. Just then, Perel approached. "Your Highness, Grand Duchess." Annette was quite surprised by his appearance. "Sir Perel." After a long absence, Perel immediately explained, "I was away from the castle for a long time, so there are many matters to attend to." Suddenly, someone lightly cleared their throat, drawing her attention. Annette immediately saw Loic approaching. She stood up, utterly surprised. "Your Highness, I see you're out for a stroll." He calmly explained, "I'm on my way to the watchtower for some business." Annette observed Loic's reaction and thought, I thought his mood had improved a bit, but it seems he's still annoyed. He's not even wearing a tie today? He suddenly spoke up. "I see you're reading a book." She regained her composure and replied, "Yes, it's a cookbook." Perel seeing this, "Oh, I see. The title is 100 Dishes for a Wife to Win Her Husband's Love." He gave a slight cough after hearing that. Loic, a little embarrassed, spoke up. "My lady, where did you find such strange books?" Annette replied innocently, "It's in the castle library." She thought to herself, "I was just looking for recipes that suited my taste, like that tomato stew." But Annette suddenly put the book down on the table. "Never mind. If you're on your way to the watchtower, may I accompany you for a bit?" He remained silent after hearing her suggestion. Then the three of them moved together towards the watchtower.
Loic then reminded her, "It's very cold there. After your walk, it's best to read in the mansion." Annette couldn't help but exclaim, "I don't know either. It's strange. It's been cold inside lately, too." He was quite flustered hearing that, wondering if she was implying that someone had told her not to come. "That's only at night, though." Perel, listening to their conversation, asked curiously, "Your Highness, what are you talking about?" "If your room is uncomfortable, I can prepare the one next to my study for you to use any time."
Liane saw Loic's face darken. "He could also be right in my study." Annette breathed a sigh of relief, and she asked curiously, "Really? So you'll also be in the study, Your Highness?" He quickly confirmed, "I'll be out this afternoon." Annette didn't stop there and continued to ask, "What about tomorrow?" Loic replied frankly, "I won't be there tomorrow either." She suddenly felt disappointed and fell silent. Afterwards, Annette taftily said, "If you're intentionally avoiding me because of me, it's all right." He quickly explained in a panic, "That's not it. Tomorrow there's a full night training session, and I plan to be at the training ground all day." She couldn't help but exclaim, "Full training? Can I come and watch?" Loic and Perel said in unison, "Of course not." Annette looked towards him and thought, "It's better to stay silent." Loic spoke up to explain, "It's just a training inspection, not a spectacle for outsiders to see." Annette was confused by his choice of words. Outsiders? How cruel! "I am your wife, the one who swore marriage vows with you, Your Highness." He looked bewildered at her current reaction. Annette, full of indignation, pointed towards Perel. "The one who represented you in our marriage is also standing right there."
"And yet you treat me like a stranger? The feeling of the ring Mr. Perel placed on my finger is still fresh in my mind." At this, Loic's face darkened, as he thought that was indeed a wedding ring. She then looked at him sadly. "Isn't that right, Mr. Perel?" Perel replied with some embarrassment, "Your Highness, that—" "Now," Annette said seriously, "I will also have to be formally introduced to the knights at some point." He was surprised by her wish. Formally introduced? In an instant, Annette sadly asked, "Wait, Your Highness, don't tell me you haven't even planned to introduce me yet?" Her words left Loic stunned. Then he silently told himself, he hadn't originally intended to bring his wife to this castle, so he had never thought about what to do when the Grand Duchess arrived. He truly was the worst husband. She looked at Loic blankly and asked, "There's no way you'd be so indifferent to your wife's affairs, right, Your Highness?" He remained silent, offering no rebuttal. A moment later, Loic finally spoke. "All right, you can meet the knights during the full training session." Her request being granted made Annette extremely happy.
"Great, I just remembered I have something to do. I'll be going now." She quickly left the place when he suddenly spoke, "Perel." He immediately turned and replied, "Yes, Commander." Leon saw Loic instruct, "Assemble the knights in the training ground immediately." Perel asked in disbelief, "What? You were on your way to the watchtower?" He gritted his teeth, glared, and snapped, "Do you want to disappoint the Grand Duchess? Do you want people to say that we are even worse than some Marquise knights?" Loic's outburst completely caught him off guard. Perel quickly affirmed, "Absolutely not. I will ask Sir Hedrick to assemble the knights immediately." He continued to order, "Tell them to bring full equipment. I will personally inspect it. And clean the training ground until it shines, not a speck of dust remaining." He obeyed, replying, "Understood." Then Loic urged Perel, "Go on." Couture dress shop. Inside the luxurious room, Madame and two female staff members respectfully bowed to Annette. "Your Highness, Duchess, it is an honor to serve you. I am Madame Lamandria." She politely stated the purpose of her visit. "I came here because I heard this is the most famous dress shop."
Tomorrow, I will officially greet the knights for the first time, so I want to give them some handkerchiefs. She immediately responded to the customer's request, saying, "Of course, please wait a moment." A moment later, Madame turned around, signaling to two female employees. Colorful handkerchiefs with countless different patterns were quickly brought out for display. At the same time, she also showed confidence in her professional abilities. "Just let me know if you desire anything. I can design any style." Annette suddenly remembered a problem. "Mr. Norton, how many knights are there in Blenhelm?" He immediately answered in detail. "Excluding the teams currently on duty, a total of 99 knights will participate in tomorrow's training session." Upon hearing this, her smiling lips stiffened slightly. 100 people? Annette quickly joked to ease the situation. "They're not just ordinary soldiers. Why are there so many knights?" Madame was Muria. That large order couldn't help but make her question life. Making 99 handkerchiefs in one day? Is that even possible? Seeing this, she crossed her arms and rested her chin, looking outward.
"Did you say 99? As you know, I was never a welcome duchess. Perhaps I was a bit too eager to make a good impression on them. The other party's pitiful circumstances successfully stirred up pity in Madame's heart." Just then, Norton chimed in with a suggestion. "Your Highness, perhaps I could split the order among a few other shops. There is still a few places in Gold Lane." Annette sadly shook her head in refusal. "This is a gift for the Order of Knights. I cannot prepare it carelessly. It absolutely must come from Couture, the best dress shop in the north." That seemingly casual yet meaningful compliment subtly touched Madame's heart. Did she just call Couture the best shop in the north? Oh, all right then. She became more enthusiastic in making her offer. "Your Highness, Duchess, do you have a specific embroidery style in mind?" Annette replied thoughtfully, "Embroidery? I have thought about it a little." Madame carefully observed the sample drawing. "How about this? I'll give it a try." Looking at the scribbled lines on the paper, she couldn't help but ask doubtfully, "Really? Can it be done?" She seriously adjusted her glasses and affirmed confidently, "I will show you the most beautiful handkerchiefs."
The female employee in the pink dress turned to express her doubt after hearing it. This is a huge job, 99 of them in one day? Her female colleague immediately sighed in frustration. It looks like we'll have to stay up all night without rest. But hearing their conversation, Annette proactively made a generous offer. "Thank you all so much. As long as it's completed on time, I'll pay double the original price." They were immediately drawn in by this unexpected windfall. Their enthusiasm for the work suddenly surged, making the two of them wholeheartedly promise, "We will prepare thoroughly, so you won't be disappointed." Seeing this, Annette secretly smiled with satisfaction. It's true that money can really solve everything. Before leaving, she sincerely emphasized, "Thank you all once again for accepting so quickly. I'm counting on you." Both the owner and the store employees were captivated by Annette's radiant face. How can someone smile so adorably? She's just too cute. Oh my goodness. The next day, the knights gathered in the courtyard early and stood in neat rows. Across from them, Annette and Loic also showed their respect for this meeting by dressing just as formally.
Soon after, the knights simultaneously saluted and loudly proclaimed, "We humbly greet your grace, the Duchess." Annette smiled back at their greeting, appearing friendly. "I finally get to meet the reliable knights who have protected Blenheim. Though it's a little late, I'm delighted to meet everyone." The soldiers, as if on cue, all had the same thought. "A goddess. She's so beautiful. Isn't this what the goddess of spring would look like if she appeared before us?" After the formal introductions, Annette politely turned to the person beside her for their opinion. "Your Highness, though it's nothing grand, I've prepared a small gift to remember everyone's faces. May I personally distribute them?" Loic replied with a slight nod. "Go ahead." The ranks advanced one by one at the signal. The first knight squad stepped forward one by one, confusion evident on the knights' faces. "You've prepared something for us?" Very soon after, a representative soldier stepped out of line and approached Annette. Her fair hand, not yet wiped clean of a slight ink smudge, gently presented a small, pretty gift bag, along with a name tag. She read aloud the recipient's name. "Sir." The one called immediately awkwardly took the small bag. "Yes, Your Highness, thank you." Annette quickly moved on to the next person, Sir Hazel. He was no less startled. "Thank you." From behind, Loic quietly watched the gift-giving process. He couldn't hide his astonishment. How does she know the name of every knight? Don't tell me. The image of Annette diligently writing each stroke next to an oil lamp flashed through Loic's mind. An unbelievable speculation crept into his mind. She stayed up all night to wrap each gift, and even personally wrote the name of each knight on them. A knight couldn't resist opening his gift bag on the spot. "This is the crest and emblem of Blenheim." The other knights immediately followed suit, and loudly called out the differences in their gifts. "My embroidery is blue, mine is red." They gathered curiously in groups to easily observe each other's handkerchiefs. "Wait, yours is red too?" One of them immediately exclaimed, realizing they are color-coded by Knight Squad. She thought so carefully that she assigned a specific color to each person. After a long while, Annette finally informed Loic, "Your Highness, I have distributed all the gifts to the knights." He immediately closed his eyes to hide his nervousness and a hint of anticipation in his heart. "Is it my turn?" Outwardly, Loic still feigned indifference, remarking, "You've worked hard." However, she smiled and expressed her next intention. "Since the greetings are over, I'll take my leave first." The unexpected situation left Loic stunned for a moment. He watched Annette cheerfully wave goodbye, wishing everyone good luck with the rest of their training. She turned and left, not noticing Loic standing rooted to the spot, his face darkening. The faint cold wind seemed to blow through, chilling his lonely heart. What about me? Is there really nothing for me? Am I the only one who didn't receive a gift? Just as Loic was still in a daze, Annette suddenly spoke up. "By the way, Your Grace, why haven't you worn a tie since yesterday? It's quite cold in the mornings and evenings. Should I have someone bring one for you?" He took a red piece of fabric from his cloak pocket. "It's right here." Seeing this, she quickly lifted her skirt and strode closer. "Wait, you've kept it all this time, so why didn't you wear it? Give it here, let me help you." The extremely close proximity between the two made Loic glance at her with a hint of shyness. The knights nearby, witnessing this intimate scene, were stunned, their eyes wide. They truly hadn't expected Commander Loic to allow someone to touch him so naturally. Annette, still oblivious, focused intently on tidying him up. Loic's lips couldn't help but curve into a high arc. The soldiers exchanged silent glances. He must be quite close with the Duchess. But the Duchess, isn't she known as the capital's villainess? There's no way someone so lovely could be a villainess. Annette tried not to make a loud sound as she gently pushed the room door open. She carefully spoke, testing the waters. "Your Grace, it's still daylight, so I'm permitted to enter, aren't I?" Loic tried to maintain a calm demeanor as he allowed. "Come in." Annette slowly approached his desk and explained her purpose. "I only dropped by because I have a small gift for you." With that, she held out a small white cloth bag, carefully tied with a yellow bow. Annette candidly expressed her sincerity. "This is for you, Your Grace." Loic was clearly caught off guard by this unexpected joy, freezing for a few seconds. A moment later, he cautiously asked, "So there's a portion for me as well?" Annette immediately let out a giggle at the other person's somewhat naive question. "Of course, this is a gift for the Night Squad. How could I possibly overlook the commander?"
Loic gently caressed the gift with his name affixed to it, treating it with utmost reverence. His bright eyes made no attempt to hide his fondness for the object in his hands. Then Loic slowly untied the ribbon knot on the fabric pouch. A handkerchief shimmering with golden light appeared before him, to Annette's exclamation. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Yours is even more special, as it's embroidered with gold thread." Loic's lips slightly parted as if he wanted to say something. The silent atmosphere made Annette tilt her head in confusion, observing the expression on his face. "Don't you like it?" After a long moment, he finally gave a slight nod, denying it. "No, I like it, thank you, I will make good use of it." His impassive, unchanging expression made her wonder with suspicion. Why is his reaction so ambiguous? Oh well, as long as he doesn't hate it, that's fine. Thinking this, Annette cheerfully changed the subject. "Sir, may I sit and read here while you work?" Loic was somewhat speechless as he glanced at the book's title, Evening Etiquette for Newlyweds.
He mused silently. Is it a newlywed couple today? I see. He sighed reluctantly but was still ready to accept this request. Please feel free to read. I'll have tea prepared. Annette quickly turned to look for a seat. Just then, a brand new small wooden table caught her eye. When was this placed here? Loic casually replied, I'm not sure. Whitney probably brought it. Annette excitedly explored this new experience. I see. Having a table here is indeed more convenient. Mr. Whitney is so thoughtful. Loic's eyes curved slightly as if smiling. Excellent. I was right to tell him to bring it. Unsure how much time had passed, at this moment, only the continuous sound of Loic's pen writing echoed in the room. Occasionally, the rustle of turning pages intermingled. Although both were focused on their own work, the atmosphere was incredibly harmonious. Before long, Annette's eyelids uncontrollably began to droop. I'm so sleepy. It must be because I stayed up all night preparing gifts for the Knight's Order. Before her transmigration, she had organized countless VIP appreciation events, so she thought this would be easy. She couldn't help but recall the evening she spent preparing gifts for the knights.
Various colorful ribbons lay scattered on the table, beside neatly written name tags. Annette couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat at the overwhelming amount of work, because she suddenly realized this world had no printers. Having to handwrite, decorate, and tie ribbons, working all night like this, it would be a wonder if she didn't get sleepy. A moment later, the room seemed quieter than before. It was then that Loic subtly noticed something amiss, stopped, and looked up. Opposite him, Annette was peacefully slumped over the table. Seeing this, Loic tried to lighten his steps, minimizing any sound, and slowly approached her. He thought to himself, why was it so quiet? He knelt down and softly woke her. Madam, please go to your bedroom. Madam? The moment their bodies touched, Loic paused for half a beat. A stirring sensation continuously spread through his chest, a truly pleasant feeling. Loic fixed his gaze on Annette's innocent sleeping face. Her fragile beauty plunged his heart into conflict. He thought to himself, I want to carry her back to her room without waking her, but what if she gets hurt if I carry her? Or should I call someone? No.
Then someone else would have to carry her. I can't stand the thought of that. The imagined scenario made Loic uncomfortable, clenching his teeth. He recalled Annette's words from the past. I'm talking about yesterday. I didn't feel any pain at all. Doesn't that mean the curse no longer affects me? Not only was there no pain, but when you held me, I even felt comfortable. As the memory faded, Loic's ears turned a suspicious shade of red at a speed easily visible to the naked eye. So it must be okay, right? Thinking this, he gently lifted Annette in a princess carry. She gently snuggled into Loic's warm chest to find a comfortable position. His body suddenly tensed up just from this small movement. Unlike last time when he only felt peace, this time he felt an intense sensation, a fullness that couldn't be compared to merely holding hands. Loic couldn't help but exclaim, I'm going to go crazy. Loic gently placed the deeply sleeping Annette onto the bed. She looked very peaceful and beautiful even in her sleep. Because of this, he couldn't help but be captivated by Annette's future. Loic's gaze shifted to her ring-adorned hand resting on.
He stared at it, as if recalling something. Annette's image appeared, her hands adorned with rings, and the feeling of the ring he had placed on her finger remained vivid in his mind. Thinking of that moment, Loic grew even angrier at himself, silently scolding himself. I'm so foolish. I'm so foolish. He crossed his arms and watched her, then thought to himself, anyway, those earrings, I wonder if they're bothering her. Loic's face showed a worried and hesitant expression. He quickly bent down to act, silently reassuring himself. It should be fine. It's just touching her lightly. Loic carefully, gently removed the earrings. As he came close to Annette's face, his heart became even more tangled with a jumble of thoughts. Yesterday morning, he had waited for a while outside the Grand Duchess's bedroom door. He didn't mean to tell her not to come see him anymore. Had he been too harsh? Loic continued to walk, troubled. He stopped and looked at his reflection in the door, wondering. Saying those words with that expression, she must have been terrified. But she would surely come for breakfast, and after she kept insisting he eat breakfast, he couldn't concentrate on work at all.
Am I being too harsh on the delicate young lady from the capital? Damn it, I shouldn't have said anything at all. When Peril's voice rang out, Loic came back to his senses, muttering in surprise, "Duchess." Annette also gradually realized he had arrived. The sight of her joyful, vibrant smile left Loic dazed. When he came back to his senses, he had been struck by love at first sight, smiling foolishly. A maid from afar brought tea into the room. As soon as she entered, she saw Loic bending over, removing Annette's earrings, and immediately cried out in alarm, "Sir, sir!" Fearing she had disturbed them, the maid apologized. "Oh dear, I'm sorry. I thought no one was in the room. I brought some warm water." He broke out in a cold sweat, feeling both embarrassed and anxious, then ordered, "Put it down and leave." She quickly seized the opportunity to slip away, softly replying, "Yes." The tea tray was placed on the table, restoring the inherent quietness of the space. Loic covered his face with his hands, thinking to himself, "After scolding the Duchess not to come looking for me at night, I ended up being caught sleeping right next to her. How truly shameful." Annette groggily opened her eyes, waking up after a long sleep. She sat up, looked around, and thought to herself,
Is this my room? I remember yesterday I was reading in the study and then everything went blank. The maid gently asked, "Are you awake, milady?" Annette immediately asked what was on her mind. "Do you know how I was brought back to my room yesterday?" She immediately asked for clarification. "Last night?" Noticing the maid's unusual gaze, she thought to herself, "Why is that look so sly?" She replied with a knowing smile, "The Grand Duke came to check on you while you were sleeping." Hearing that, Annette immediately sat bolt upright and exclaimed loudly, "Huh? The Grand Duke?" She looked at the earrings on the foam pad and mused, "No wonder. He even carefully took off those tiny items for me. I'm not even this tidy when I'm awake. He carried me all the way here? Carried me like a princess? No way. He must have carried me over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, right? Either way, it's mortifying. How could I have been so deeply asleep that I was completely unaware?" Suddenly remembering something, Annette softly asked, "By the way, where is the Grand Duke?" The maid replied, "I heard he had some business to attend to outside and won't return until late tonight."
She secretly breathed a sigh of relief, casting aside her worries. What a relief! I was also worried it would be awkward if we accidentally ran into each other. But then, with the Grand Duke not here, what am I supposed to do all day now? Do what? Eat tomato soup, of course, Marie explained with a gentle smile. "I apologize, madam. We don't have private rooms here, so we always have to seat people in a corner like this," Annette reassured her, not bothered by the situation. "It's all right. I was the one who asked to sit here so as not to disturb others." "I still think your soup is the best in the world," she replied shyly and modestly. "Oh dear, you're praising me too much." She in turn did not hesitate to praise that rare talent. "I'm serious. Even the head chef at the Grand Duke's mansion can't make soup as delicious as yours. It's just a shame I can't come here every time I crave it." Hearing this, Marie joyfully exclaimed, "How about I write down the recipe for you?" Annette was startled and asked in bewilderment, "The recipe? Are you really going to give me the secret of your shop?" As she wrote, she explained, "It's not a big secret. Every household just cooks it a little differently. I'll write it down for you right now." She looked around with a hint of apprehension, her heart pondering silently.
"I feel like I always owe Marie, and it's getting embarrassing. Is there anything I can do to help? Blenheim doesn't get many tourists. Most people come to eat, but few stay overnight." Annette immediately asked what was on her mind. "Are there not many guests? Is it because it's off-season?" Marie wrote back while answering, "Blenheim doesn't really have a peak or off-season. It's simply not a place many people visit, but thanks to our lunch crowd, we're still doing okay." Hearing that, she's secretly worried. Just okay? Is that really okay? The food is so delicious. It's truly a shame that such a good chef has so few customers. Annette rested her chin on her hand, pondering how to promote the restaurant for a long time. Finally, she seemed to have an idea, thinking, why didn't I think of this sooner? The sun gradually set, giving way to night, and the magical orange glow of dusk illuminated the mansions. Annette scurried up the steps, holding something. She held the piece of paper, smiling joyfully, and thought to herself, "I'm so glad I thought of this before leaving me in. I really want to do something for Marie." Annette recalled whispering her idea to her. "Marie, have you ever thought about making and selling them yourself?" Marie was also surprised by this, wasn't she? She recalled, thinking to herself, "Of course, it's entirely up to her." Whitney stood at the gate, respectfully greeting. "She has arrived, Your Highness." Annette noticed something unusual and asked, "Whitney, what's wrong?" He gently informed her of the situation. "Lady Lamondria has arrived." She asked again, puzzled, "Lady Lamondria?" Seeing Annette look like a bewildered fawn, Whitney subtly explained, "The Grand Duke said that since the season is about to change, you need new clothes tailored." Hearing this, she was astonished, secretly wondering, is the Grand Duke always so thoughtful? He always wears similar designed outfits. I thought he didn't care about such things. Or perhaps my dress looks too shabby. The romantic orange of the sunset illuminated every leaf, making the forest more poetic. Peril reported the situation to Loic while riding his horse. So the summary of the Kelada Merchants Guild report is that Marion is deliberately lowering prices to lure small and medium-sized merchants, and we have to intervene with force. It's quite a headache, isn't it, Your Highness?
But it seemed not a single word registered with him.
because he was busy thinking of someone, smiling foolishly. Perel saw Loic frozen, lost in happiness, so he waved his hand and called out, "Grand Duke!" The Grand Duke was probably thinking of the Grand Duchess. At the mention of her, he immediately snapped back to reality and asked, "What did you say?" Taking the opportunity to tease him, he said, "I was just saying that there's no reason for you to be smiling at the report from the Kelada Merchant Congress." Loic immediately used his authority to threaten him. "Perel, you've become quite bold since the Grand Duchess arrived." Perel became timid and reserved. "I apologize." He cleared his throat, preparing to explain. "I was just wondering if the Grand Duchess's dress fitting went smoothly." Hearing that reason, he secretly frowned, confirming his suspicion. So he is thinking about the Grand Duchess. Although Perel hadn't teased him yet, he didn't forget the main point. "But did you really not wait?" Loic glanced at him and asked back, "Why? Is there a problem?" "You yourself said that the Grand Duchess seemed to need suitable clothes. Last night, I should have increased the Grand Duchess's discretionary budget." Perel was surprised to hear that. "Yes, may I ask why?" He slowly opened his eyes, lost in thought. Loic looked up and offered an explanation, as if it were necessary. He secretly pondered the positive things Annette had done. He had thought she would use her discretionary funds for jewelry, but the first gift she bought with that money was for the knights. The more he learned about her, the more he felt she was thoughtful. Seeing Loic's happy smile, Perel implicitly understood that his Grace was thinking of the Grand Duchess again. He suddenly wondered, is the discretionary budget sufficient? Loic turned to him and asked, "Oh, really?" Perel immediately explained, "I saw the luggage she brought. It seems she lacks both clothes and accessories, and most of the clothes she brought are quite simple." Loic was stunned to hear this and thought to himself, "The Grand Duchess's clothes?" He recalled Annette's radiant smile as she called out, "Your Grace," and silently reproached himself, "I haven't truly paid attention. I always thought she looked beautiful in anything she wore." To compensate for his oversight, Loic decided, "Then I will allocate a separate budget for the Grand Duchess's wardrobe." Perel shrewdly pointed out another issue. However, she is still unfamiliar with Blenheim, and without a maid, there will be no one to guide her to reputable tailors. He immediately inquired for information. Who's the most famous tailor in Blenheim? It needs to be a place on par with the shops in the capital. But Perel was also stumped by this. For a dress, where would that be? The tailors I know only make men's clothing. Hearing this, Loic secretly worried. What should I do now? Leon happily confirmed the question. Are you referring to the famous tailor? Among the tailor shops serving the nobility, Constance is the most renowned. He asked back, bewildered, "Constance?" He added, "The handkerchief the Grand Duchess gave us was also from Constance." Hearing this, Loic felt annoyed. Every time, why do they know the Grand Duchess better than I do? Nevertheless, he still prioritized matters concerning the person he cared for. Very well, I will ask about the Grand Duchess's preferences first. Only then would he contact Constance. Leon then wondered, "But Commander, this is essentially a gift for the Grand Duchess, isn't it? Wouldn't it be better to give it to her in a more meaningful way instead of just arranging a tailor?" Being a truly practical person, he didn't understand at all. A gift? I'm just arranging a tailor. Perel suddenly appeared and offered a suggestion. "But Your Grace, just imagine for a moment. Imagine how delighted the Grand Duchess would be if this were a surprise gift. Would she truly agree?" I said so, but you know how cautious noble ladies are with their words. The more she thinks about it, she might misunderstand summoning a tailor as a criticism of her attire. Hearing this, Loic became annoyed. What? Criticizing her attire? What does that mean? Perel tried to soften the negativity, but still warned. Of course Your Grace wouldn't do that, but she might misunderstand. Yet Loic domineeringly declared, "And if the Grand Duchess is not pleased in the slightest, just remember that neither of you will escape responsibility." Leon trembled but remained optimistic. "She'll like it." Perel, though a little hesitant, affirmed with certainty, "Of course she'll like it." The full moon shone brightly, illuminating the night with a mysterious blue-violet hue. 3 people, including Loic, rode their horses through the gate. Perel recognized the newcomer and announced, "The head butler has arrived." Loic's heart was filled with anticipation and immense confidence. Is the Grand Duchess waiting for me? It seems she's quite pleased with the surprise gift. It's late, inviting her to my room wouldn't be appropriate, but a simple cup of tea is fine. I'll quickly wash my face and change. Done. Whitney's shocking words shattered Loic's beautiful dream. "Sir Leon, the Grand Duchess sent word that you should stop by before returning to your room." He heard his name and was stunned. "Me?" Leon's face couldn't hide his bewilderment and confusion, while Loic was completely petrified. Both Perel and Leon secretly broke out in a sweat, fearfully looking at the gloomy atmosphere before them. Loic, dazed as if he couldn't believe it, asked, "What does this mean? She's waiting for Leon instead of me." Loic's face darkened and he spoke in a cold voice. "The Duchess wants to see Leon? What does she want with him?" Whitney replied with a casual smile. She didn't state the reason. He stubbornly pressed on. "Only Leon?" He continued to answer. "That's right, sir." Perel awkwardly tried to smooth things over. "Leon, you should go see what's going on, and while you're at it, ask if the Duchess liked your gift." Loic, with a cold voice, turned his gaze towards Leon. "Don't say a word." His face went pale, and he said tremblingly, "Yes, sir."
Annette, sitting in the room and looking out the door, said, "Leon, welcome." He bowed nervously. "Duchess?" She said with concern, "Oh dear, you must be very tired. I called you too late, didn't I?" Leon, however, said, "Not at all. How could I be tired when I have the honor of meeting you, Duchess?" She thought worriedly, "You don't look very well, Leon. Actually, this is just like being called in by your boss after work. No, wait, it's more like being called in by your boss's wife." Annette said awkwardly, "I'm bothering you, aren't I? And it's such a late hour. I apologize. I just have a small favor to ask of you." As expected, he forced a smile in response. "Not at all, Your Grace. It's perfectly fine." "But what is this small favor you mentioned?" She placed a box on the table. "Could you please give this to Lady Marie?" Leon was taken aback, and he asked, "For my mother, Duchess?" Annette continued, "Oh, you can open it and take a look if you like." When the box was opened, an exquisitely crafted flower-shaped brooch appeared. Leon was surprised.
She smiled and explained, "Madame Marie gave me her tomato stew recipe, just a small gift as a thank you." Leon's eyes sparkled as he received it. "Thank you, Your Grace," he said. "I will pass it on to my mother." Annette smiled, nodded, and then thought, "I've spent half of my emergency fund, but for that tomato stew, it's totally worth it." Suddenly, Annette spoke up and asked, "Leon, is your inn having difficulties lately?" He answered honestly, "Yes, we don't have many tourists, and the location isn't very favorable, but please don't worry, we're not on the verge of bankruptcy yet." Annette fell into contemplation. "Fruit there is delicious. It just needs a bit better promotion. Just reasonable advertising. Word of mouth will surely spread quickly. I almost interfered in someone else's business again. I still have so much of my own work unfinished. It's best to avoid it." As if remembering something, she spoke up and asked, "By the way, has the Duke been back long?" He immediately replied, "He just returned, madam. He has no other appointments for tonight and seems to have a lot of free time." Annette found it a bit strange, but still replied, "Is that so?" Her gaze drifted into the distance. "It's evening, but perhaps I should invite him for tea. I also have something I want to show him." A little while later, it was completely dark, and the moonlight shining through the trees made the garden even more radiant. Annette sat alone at the tea table. Annette looked at the teacups and pastries, falling into contemplation. I had asked Whitney to prepare them urgently, and he did a very good job. The Duke's chances of appearing were 50-50. He is naturally gentler than he looks, but sometimes he can be very cold. But he only said not to meet him at night, not that we couldn't meet at all, right? He probably won't stand me up, will he? If he doesn't come, I can drink alone. The atmosphere here is quite pleasant already. Suddenly, Loic hastily pushed the door open and entered. He was covered in a fine sheen of sweat, probably from having run all the way here, and a faint blush still lingered on his cheeks from excitement. He asked, "Have you been waiting long?" Annette quickly stood up, sighing worriedly, "Duke, you could have taken your time. Did you run all the way here?" Loic stubbornly replied, "I hope I'm not disturbing your rest." Annette smiled and said, "It's all right. I was just about to have tea anyway." Annette couldn't help but look at him a few more times. She thought intently, "It's really strange. Just by looking at the Grand Duke's face, all my fatigue vanishes. To be honest, in this boring reborn life, the Grand Duke is my only light." Seeing her staring, he awkwardly spoke up, "Madam, why did you call Leon alone just now?" She looked up in surprise and replied, "Oh, it's nothing important." Loic's expression darkened instantly. "So that's it. Just Leon, without me. The two of you. Just the two of you?" Annette thought to herself in surprise, "Don't tell me he's jealous." She quickly explained, "Well, the thing is, Mrs. Marie gave me the recipe for tomato stew, so I asked Leon to—" Loix relaxed his facial muscles. "Is that all? Do you like tomato stew, madam?" Annette quickly replied, "Yes, I like it so much I could eat it for a whole week." He rested his chin on his hand, his face thoughtful. "Tomato stew, huh?" Suddenly, it was as if 1,000 flowers bloomed around Annette, and she smiled. "But more importantly, Grand Duke, do you notice anything different about me today?" Loic asked skeptically.
"What do you mean, different?" she said cheerfully. "Just as I said, don't you see anything different about me?" Loic pondered endlessly but couldn't grasp it. She was truly beautiful. "But the Grand Duchess always—" Annette suddenly spoke up. "Oh, come on." As soon as she finished speaking, she stood up and twirled around. Her light blue skirt billowed with her spin. Annette smiled. "Ta-da! What do you think? This is the dress my husband gave me." She secretly teased him in her thoughts. He's probably flustered again hearing the word husband, isn't he? Loic was stunned for a moment. He suddenly spoke up. "It suits you very well." Loic looked at her seriously. His deep, warm voice just now struck Annette's maiden heart. She shyly and quietly sat back down. "Oh, thank you." The atmosphere at this moment was a little magical. Both she and he were flustered at the same moment. Annette secretly thought, "Why am I suddenly so thirsty?" She spoke up to break this awkwardness. "But why did you call for a tailor? Is it because my wardrobe doesn't meet the Blenhelm household standards?" Loic hastily said, "What? Of course not. Absolutely not." Due to extreme stress, Loic unconsciously tightened his grip, causing the teacup in his hand to break its handle and fall straight onto the table. His hand trembled in waves. "Oh no, how did this happen?" Annette covered her mouth and chuckled. "I was just kidding. Don't break the cup."
Thank you, sir. Thanks to you, I've acquired quite a lot of clothes. But is this for real? You're not going to send a bill later and then change your mind, are you? Annette asked, then added, Why are you laughing? I really bought a lot. What if you have to sell your entire castle? Loic offered a gentle smile. I absolutely won't change my mind. Please feel free to accept it. It's a gift just for you. Annette felt shy, her heart pounding, her face flushing. Why is my heart so strange lately? She fanned herself with her hand. It's really warm, perhaps because we're in the greenhouse. As soon as she finished speaking, a hand was extended right before her eyes. Loic offered, Shall we take a little stroll? I'll give you a tour. The young couple walked hand in hand, strolling around, the atmosphere truly romantic. Annette glanced at him and thought to herself, His hand is so firm. She suddenly spoke up, So this is the Grand Duchess's greenhouse.
He replied, That's right, even though it has been closed since she passed away. Annette recalled what happened earlier. Henchie, Whitney was confused again when I mentioned it. He once said if it's a greenhouse, I should ask the Grand Duke about it. Annette's face was full of remorse. I'm sorry, if I had known, I wouldn't have asked you to reopen it. He replied nonchalantly, It's all right. It was only closed because no one visited it. More importantly, I want to show you another place. Annette couldn't help but be astonished by the sight before her. She exclaimed excitedly, It's Nephros flowers. My mother loved these flowers. They're so beautiful. Loic, standing behind her, spoke softly. If you like them, I'll have someone pick a few to make a bouquet to decorate your room. Annette turned her head and replied, No, it would be a pity to pick them just to watch them wither. I'm happy just looking at them like this. Loic looked at her with gentle and profound eyes. He unexpectedly took Annette's hand. Then I will always keep the greenhouse open. They will bloom until midsummer, so you can come and admire them anytime. Annette, with a flushed face, replied to him.
Thank you, Your Highness, she thought to herself. Why does the atmosphere feel so strange today? Suddenly, her hand reached up near Loic's face. Your Highness, your cravat has come loose, she added. Even the Duke admitted it looks much better when I tie it myself, didn't he? He replied, a little puzzled. That's right. Annette, emboldened, pressed on. It would be wonderful if I could do this every morning. He unconsciously continued. That's right. What? Oh no, she sighed and turned her head away. If someone heard that, they'd think I was implying we were sleeping together or something. Loic blushed shyly. Please don't say such things anymore. Annette, serious, said as she moved closer. You said you didn't like me coming at night, so that's why I said I'd come in the morning. His face turned another shade redder. You don't have to promise that. You can just drop by occasionally if you remember. Annette, extremely excited, asked, But what if I want to tie it for you every day? His face was now no different from a tomato. Loic, embarrassed, slowly began to speak. I think I would... Confused, she asked. Huh? He continued. I think I would end up waiting for you too much.
Annette paused, surprised. Her small heart had been beating rapidly ever since. What? He's worried he'll have to wait for me every morning if he truly promises that? Good heavens, could a duke be this adorable? Loic sighed and turned his face away, thinking she would just find it annoying. Annette replied firmly, No, just the thought of you waiting for me makes me happy, and there's more. I don't need a perfect husband, I want someone who needs my hand. An adorable husband who needs care is much cuter. He stammered in response, Well then, let's go home. Annette was not content and called out, Your Highness. Loic turned aback. The scarf, do whatever you want with it. Anyway, you'll end up doing what you want, won't you? She was surprised. Annette stepped forward and hugged his arm. How did you know? Fry's manner. Something caught Ferdin's attention. He wondered, was that a letter from Annette? Dear Ferdin, I heard you attended my wedding. I couldn't greet you directly. Please understand. It must be spring in the capital now.
At Blenheim, spring was also gradually arriving. The letter read, Thank you very much for the gift you sent. May you always be at peace. From Annette Blenheim. He picked up the letter and softly read, Annette Blenheim. Someone replied, Before the wedding, your sister came to sell some jewelry. Ferdin was surprised. Annette? The person replied, Yes, it seems she didn't know this brand belongs to you, young Marquis. Ferdin continued to review the documents. He instructed, Give her a little more money, just enough not to make her suspicious. The person acknowledged the order. Understood. He pondered, Is she planning to leave without telling father? Ferdin quietly stood before a dressing table. He gently opened the box. Inside was an exquisite gemstone necklace. Ferdin unexpectedly looked up. This necklace had once been worn around the neck of the woman in the painting, who was the mother of the two siblings. He threw the letter into the fire. As he watched, he thought, his expression still cold and emotionless. I've already sent her mother's keepsake. Now she can live however she wants. We were never close anyway. Suddenly, a servant from the mansion hastily pushed open the door and announced, Young master, the Marquis is calling for you.
He roared furiously. How dare you burn the letter from Blenheim without my permission? Do you think I, the head of this family, am a fool? Ferdin calmly replied, It was just a thank you letter for attending the wedding, nothing more. Marquis Freeze fumed. That's for me to decide. How can the future heir be so thoughtless? Ferdin coldly replied, Forget Annette. That weak girl can't do anything for this family, no matter what she does in the ducal castle. He shouted, Are you trying to lecture your own father? He replied, I just mean that you shouldn't dwell on the past. Marquis Freeze gritted his teeth, thinking, lately Ferdin hasn't been listening to me at all, ever since that lowly girl left. He gave in, waving his hand. All right, you may leave. He replied, yes. He sat back down and began to sort through his thoughts. Everything is in the past now. He thought to himself, security at the ducal residence is too strict. I've sent people to try and get in many times, but no one has succeeded. Except for Annette. This is my chance. But so far I still don't have a valid reason.
But if Annette had sent the letter first, things would be different. I must write a letter to Blenhelm. The next morning, Luik slightly bowed his head for Annette to tie his scarf. She cheerfully announced, done. He said apologetically, I'm sorry I can't eat with everyone today. I have an urgent matter to attend to. She didn't mind, waving her hand. Oh, it's fine. I was planning to go to Mr. Norton and Mrs. Marie's inn anyway. His voice suddenly turned cold. Is that so? Loic climbed onto his horse, leaving a promise. I'll be back before dinner. Why are you smiling? Annette replied with a smile. Because it feels like we're a real married couple. Loic responded puzzled. We are a real married couple. We're not a fake one. The marriage certificate is real too, she replied flustered. Well, yes, that's true. Thinking back, she had made a fuss before because she didn't want to pretend to be a wife. Yet she adapted so quickly now. Annette turned to Loic. Shall we go see Lady Marie? He replied yes. The Duke's manor carriage slowly departed from the castle. Annette sat in the carriage, resting her chin on her hand, thinking, should I ask them to make spicy tomato stew today?
Suddenly she heard arguing. I didn't steal this. The knight spoke up. Explain yourself. We're asking where you stole it from. The little girl struggled. No, I didn't steal it. Annette angrily stepped forward. What's going on here? They were terrified. Duchess, she continued. I already asked. Why are you treating this child so roughly? He replied. Your Highness, this girl seems to have stolen your belongings. A moment later, before the city gate, Annette held a stack of papers in her hand, deep in thought. There's no mistaking it. This is the writing paper I used to write letters to Ferdin. Why does this child have it? The knight spoke. She said she came here to run errands, yet when I saw her leave, she was hiding this fine paper on her person. I checked to be sure. Isn't this your Highness's letter? Annette held the letter and pondered. There's nothing important in the letter, but a document from the ducal castle getting out is another matter. Marquis Freiss. Or perhaps someone else wants to dig up information about me.
Norton drew his sword and pointed it directly at the little girl. Which organization sent you? Are you a spy? The little girl cried out in fear. A spy? What are you talking about? I was just curious about the castle. He replied coldly. It's best to tell the truth. Knights have the right to deal with any threat within the castle on the spot. Suddenly, Rita's loud voice echoed from afar. Your Highness, I give up. She was momentarily stunned. Rita. Her eyes red-rimmed, she struggled to speak. That piece of paper, I was the one who gave it to the child. Not long after, she looked at the two people in front of her, thinking without speaking. I think she looks familiar. I didn't expect her to be Rita's younger sister, she spoke up in surprise. Now, explain yourself. Tell me exactly what happened. Rita trembled as she spoke. That was me. Suddenly, Marcella slowly pushed the door open and entered. Pardon me, Your Highness. I am Marcella, the head maid. I heard that one of our maids caused trouble for you due to an unfortunate incident. Norton thought to himself, the head maid. She recalled the previous incident. Was it those maids? Where were they going? Whitney replied.
It seems they are heading to the West Wing today. She doubted. The West Wing? He replied, that's right. Maids are not allowed to stay in the main hall after working hours. Annette was puzzled. So she was the one who led the maids away that day. Marcella spoke up. It's my responsibility for failing to get rid of a thieving maid. I will punish her severely so this doesn't happen again. Drag her where? Rita struggled. Your Highness. Suddenly Annette spoke up. Wait, what do you think you're doing? She thought with a cold expression. She barged into the Duchess's room without permission, and now she's making assumptions when I haven't said anything. She's disrespecting me, she reprimanded. I will decide this child's punishment after hearing the full story. The woman stubbornly insisted. Managing the maids is my authority, so I must ask your Highness to respect my role. Annette was surprised. Respect? Even if I'm just the Grand Duke's contractual wife, in front of everyone, am I not still the Grand Duchess? Could it be that in her eyes I'm just a young lady who knows nothing of the world? Or is it because, as rumors say, I'm not the daughter of a noble?
Nor was she a grand princess truly in power. Annette slowly approached, full of respect. She said, Do you dare challenge me, the mistress of this house? In her mind, she thought, there's a limit to looking down on others. Marcella stammered in reply, Of course not. I only ask that you not deny the efforts of this old woman. Her next words stunned the woman. The way she spoke was truly amusing. Mr. Whitney replied, Yes, Your Highness. She proudly declared, Who has the authority to manage the maids? She thought to herself, I've dealt with the worst clients. I have plenty of references from those nightmare clients. Whitney calmly replied, Of course, the Grand Duchess, mistress of this castle. She continued, So a head maid dares to tell me not to overstep my authority, is that right? He replied, Those words are truly inappropriate. Annette spoke, Are they? The woman panicked. No, I mean,
Only before your majesty was present. Annette turned back and replied, "Now then, I am present, so let's put the past behind us." Marcella was unwilling, but
Annette interrupted. Have you come here to challenge my authority? Marcella quickly bowed. I apologize. How could I dare? Annette interrupted again. Be silent when I speak. Marcella trembled. I will engrave it in my heart. Annette secretly teased. How do you like the feeling of being a client from hell for an advertising company? She waved her hand. If you understand, you may leave. As if granted a pardon, Marcella and the maids who had just rushed in immediately retreated. Suddenly, Annette called out again. Marcella. Marcella slowly turned her head. Yes, Your Majesty. Annette reminded her. From now on, do not open my door without permission. Someone who calls herself the head maid should at least know basic etiquette. Marcella hastily said, I apologize. A moment later, the room became quiet again. Annette sat down on the chair and sighed. Did I sound a bit like a villain just now? I only intended to live quietly and then leave, so what is this? I've accidentally made an enemy of the head maid. Whitney spoke up. The tea has gone cold. I will bring a fresh pot immediately, Your Majesty. Annette thought to herself. Ah, perhaps it's fine, isn't it? She replied to him. Thank you. Annette realized just now she had spoken, will you tell your story? Rita, on the other hand, heard the maids gossiping about what had just happened. How could she be so shameless? She probably hasn't even spent her first night with him yet, but she's already acting like the mistress. Honestly, since she arrived at the castle, she hasn't done anything significant, has she? Compared to her, the head maid had dedicated so many years to the castle. She interrupted. That's enough. Don't speak so loudly. It's disgraceful. She shut her mouth. Sorry, head maid. She frowned. I underestimated her. I thought she was just a Grand Duchess staying here for a short while. Marcella suddenly spoke up. This won't do. I must report the situation to her. Inside the luxurious room with dim lights, the space was incredibly quiet. Annette held the drawings in her hands, examining them with her own speculations. So this is Morina's drawing. Her technique is better than I thought. Rita knelt down on the ground, explaining with great anxiety why she had stolen the stationery. I apologize, sir. I just thought it was a bit wasteful since the back was still blank.
Annette wanted to give her sister some paper to draw on. She turned to ask with a touch of empathy. So you took the private letter I wrote? Annette felt a pang of hesitation. A maid in the ducal estate shouldn't be paid so little that she couldn't afford paper. Hearing this, Rita explained tremblingly. I didn't think carefully. I thought it wasn't important. This left Annette utterly confused. Based on what the girl had written, she couldn't conclude anything. On the papers was written, Father, how have you been lately? I'm sure you're well. Don't think I'll let it slide just because of that necklace, brother. It seems you've finally grown up. Looking towards the window, Annette felt deeply bewildered. But whatever the reason, revealing the Duke's letter was a serious crime. What should she do? Marina also quickly knelt down and cried out, Miss, my sister only did it for me. Please punish me instead of her. Rita frantically yelled, Marina, hey, get up. You didn't do anything wrong. Annette also spoke quietly. Enough, I understand. Your name is Marina, right? The girl affirmed firmly. Yes. Immediately after, Annette picked up the stack of papers again. She smiled gently and offered the little girl, Would you like to draw something for me? Marina was so surprised that she froze, her eyes widening as she looked back at Annette and replied, Yes, madam. After everything was settled, she returned to bed. Spreading her arms and legs to relax, Annette let out a long sigh. I'm dead tired. I didn't even get to stay at Mrs. Marie's inn. What a terrible day, and my tomato soup. Then she turned, picked up the drawing, and mused to herself. But it wasn't all for nothing. That girl really should become an illustrator. I'm sure someone will need her talent. Placing a hand on her forehead and furrowing her brow, Annette sighed tiredly. Maybe I'm overthinking things. I feel a bit dizzy. I need to see the Duke, she told herself inwardly. I'll just lie down for a bit. After falling asleep, Annette heard someone shout, Execute the criminal, Annette Fries. This made her extremely panicked. Annette helplessly wondered, What? Why am I here? I'm so scared. Someone please save me. Immediately after, a cloaked figure approached her and scolded. How foolish. Who else can you blame?
This will be her last chance. After those words, Annette woke up with a panicked jolt, screaming. Loic, standing right beside her, also turned pale with fear, calling out, Madam. Loic was utterly bewildered internally, but outwardly he still tried to reassure her. I intended to let you think more, but you seemed to be having a nightmare, so I woke you up. It was only then that Annette truly woke up. Ah, she also realized internally, it seems I dreamt something. Tears streamed down her face. Loic gently touched her face, asking, You've been asleep all day, are you all right? This made Annette confused. Huh? All day? I slept the whole day? Loic immediately stood up straight and explained. The royal physician said it was a severe cold. Looking at the table with medicine and warm water beside her, Annette realized in confusion. So he took care of me himself. The Duke took care of me.
He then bowed his head pitifully and said, "It might be my fault. My curse might have affected you." However, before he could finish speaking, Annette reached out and pulled his head down, refuting. "It's because I overexerted myself." Loic was a little surprised but continued to take the blame. "I know there isn't much to do in the north."
You don't need to make excuses, Annette quickly exclaimed. That's not true. There are so many fun things. You just don't know about them. Taking walks around the village, shopping at the market, eating tomato soup. Hearing this, Loic immediately questioned, "Tomato soup?" She then affirmed, "It's delicious. Anyway, Duke, I like this place. I had prepared myself to be hated for a whole year, but Blenheim has only been pleasant." Hearing this, Loic took her hand to reassure her. "Who could possibly hate you?" Suddenly, Annette's eyes widened as she asked, "Duke, you've rejected so many marriage proposals before." He replied, his eyes wide with confusion. "I was wrong then. You are the Duchess of Blenheim now. Who would dare hate you? If anyone makes you uncomfortable, tell me." Hearing this, Annette burst out laughing and asked, "If I tell you, will you scold them?" Without a moment's hesitation, Loic affirmed, "Yes, I will scold them." Hearing this, she blushed shyly. He was equally flustered, avoiding her gaze. Loic, having embarrassed himself, quickly turned away. "Annette, rest a little more. The doctor said you shouldn't overexert yourself." At this point, Annette was still frozen, unable to utter a word. Watching Loic's retreating back, she couldn't help but be astonished. Is this why people get married? After leaving the room, he strode down the long, cold corridor. Loic's footsteps stopped at a room with an open door. Whitney respectfully approached and greeted, "You've arrived, Duke." As he stepped inside, he replied coldly, "Yes. Have you found out why the Duchess fell ill yet?" Loic returned to his study, questioning with a hint of confusion. "Is there nothing unusual?" The doctor, frowning in bewilderment, replied, "That's right. Apart from being slightly anemic, there are no major issues." So he asked further, "She fainted even though she's not sick?" So he had to explain. Noble ladies in the capital often do that, if their dresses are a bit too tight or if they're startled. Loic sadly bowed his head and wondered, "So she's that fragile?" Seeing this, Whitney also quickly stepped forward and said, "From now on, I will pay more attention to her health." The doctor couldn't help but feel bewildered internally. People from the north are just too strong, at least for someone like me from the south. Then he wiped the sweat from his face and forced a smile. It seems she has to adjust a lot to the new environment. "I will prescribe medication, but the most important thing is to ensure she eats and rests sufficiently," Loic replied sadly. "All right." With that, the doctor bowed and left. Sitting alone in the room, he helplessly clutched his head, wondering, if she's that weak, why didn't she say anything? What if she fainted while walking around the mansion with that frail body? And what if something happened to Annette in my absence? At this moment, Whitney stepped forward, poured him some tea, and said, "It seems her maid caused a bit of trouble this time." Hearing this, Loic immediately turned to question the maid. The maid bowed her head and explained, "Yes, she secretly took her letters, and she even had to confront the butler about it. She handled it well, but I'm worried it caused her stress." A thought sparked in Loic's mind. If only someone were always by her side to help her. He then called out to Whitney. The latter quickly responded, "Yes, sir." Loic coldly made a decision. "We need to hire more maids for the ducal mansion." Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us and not miss the latest episodes. We wish you relaxing and enjoyable moments. See you in the